What is up, you legends? Welcome back to Memes and Markets. Keith, how are you, man?
Today's the best day of my life, Ben. How are you?
Today's fantastic. We are going to be exploring the AI bubble and the potential for it to pop, because it does seem like there's more and more rumblings of that being a potential reality. We're going to investigate some of the characters in the whole AI bubble saga, in terms of the people who are bullish on AI, people who are screaming that the AI bubble is going to pop, all that good stuff. Before we get into it, let's say what up to everyone in the chat. Welcome back to you, good sir, and always good to see you. How are you now? What a sale. How are you? Great to see everyone. We appreciate you hanging out with us.
Robert J. Davis said, "Hello, everyone. I'm leaving next week. Negotiating a job before I go."
Let's go. Good luck.
You're leaving. You're leaving us. What do you mean by that?
Oops.
Cool. So yeah, we're talking AI bubble. It's certainly the topic of the week. There was essentially one big thing that I think started this conversation that happened in South Korea, where their stock market kind of like had a massive hit that it took, where it was mostly just semiconductor companies taking a massive hit, but then that dragging down their entire major stock index, and that being something that would be a very similar setup for what would happen in the US as well.
It seems like there's so many things cracking at the same time. I'm sure you've also heard about the Chinese housing market as well, where
I haven't
it's
actually.
wiped out 20 years of gains in 1 year. So that's pretty
Wow.
yeah. Man, if that happened here in Canada, like, people would be losing their minds.
Yeah, that's super fair, man. So one of the things that we were gonna start off with is a clip from Ed Citron, who is one of the key figures speaking out against what's happening with AI and whether or not it is a bubble, him claiming that it is. So let's hear a clip from him.
So you've argued that the economics behind AI don't make sense, but some investors who own NVIDIA, Broadcom, and some of these other bigger AI infrastructure trades have made a fortune. So in your view, when you say AI isn't working, what exactly in your view is not working?
So I think people conflate an equities bubble and equity returns with a functional industry. All of the money flowing into Broadcom, especially NVIDIA, all of these AI data centers comes from speculative investment, from heavily debt-based or alternatively hyperscaler capex. So Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, buying a bunch of GPUs in the hopes that it will turn into something. When you actually look at the raw revenues, none of them actually disclose their AI revenues. They use run rate. Microsoft, $37 billion of annual run rate. Sounds like a lot of money. Actually, that's $3.08 billion a month. And I think they spent $31.9 billion in capex in the last quarter. So it's not really a real revenue story anywhere. And indeed, the two largest companies, OpenAI and Anthropic, both horribly unprofitable, both lose tens of billions of dollars. And on top of all of that, they are the largest consumers of AI compute. They are the largest customers. 70 to 80% of all compute revenue is them. They take up the majority of hyperscaler infrastructure. They are the largest clients of CoreWeave, because CoreWeave's largest client is Microsoft for OpenAI. The other one is NVIDIA. Then the next one is Google for OpenAI. And of course, OpenAI. It's the same story everywhere. It's either speculative build-outs for data centers that will be used, they hope, by somebody, except the demand doesn't really exist underneath, or hyperscaler build-outs for AI services that no one really wants to buy. No one has a good revenue story.
That's the thing that he's preaching the whole time, is the economic sustainability of how they're going about and building these things. And the thing that he always preaches, that, which is true, is it's always, trust me, we'll figure this out later. It's it's like, and who else gets that kind of opportunity to get that kind of runway, right? Unless you've built up this monster of a reality, which most of the product has been a marketing product of this is going to do every job. So, your thoughts on that, Keith?
Yeah, it's super interesting, man, because I definitely feel like I've fallen into believing the hype over the past year, probably as it's picked up, and then just talking to you over and over again, starting to realize that maybe there's more to the story than what meets the eye. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but it's like there's two things that I think make this a little bit different than other times when you have people saying, "Oh, we'll figure it out." One of the things that's different is that there's just so much riding on these few handful of companies actually figuring it out.
Everything, the whole economy.
And then the other thing being that um, essentially these companies themselves are generating revenue, but that doesn't necessarily look the same as like Amazon back in the day generating revenue, because the revenue that's being generated is based upon this idea that also the customer will be able to figure out how to use these things at some point, right? This is R&D spending,
Mhm.
right? Not um, inventory spending. You know what I'm saying?
And it's such a cluster, man. Because like, the guy from Palantir will basically say, "Yeah, we as the user are being told that we gotta figure out and make this make economic sense, but then we're giving our ideas, our data, our proprietary information, like, to these frontier models that can just spin up a new business to take us out in 2 seconds because they have the network effect of their existing user base and an unlimited, seemingly, marketing budget to create realities." So, it creates a very strange situation where it's like, this could be transformational technology hypothetically for a business, but you're also taking on ungodly amounts of risk using these tools in many ways as well. So, yeah, it's a incredibly sticky situation, but I also think that I just think that so much is riding on this from the economic perspective that either this bubble was manufactured to pop or they won't let it pop, right? Like, I think whatever happens was the plan all along, but I think you're flipping a coin pretty much in terms of like, will they bail them out and continue doing that thing again, or is this meant to wipe everything down for the reset, the word we've been getting primed for?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a fair assessment too, to put that out there. The word uh, that people have been being primed for. It's everywhere. It's made its way through the algorithms, and has certainly caught the attention of a lot of people. Is this concept of like a great reset?
It's been too present and been seen too much for me to think that it's not coming from somewhere. When these things kind of like take place, some of them happen organically, but when these platforms can be weaponized, they almost always are being weaponized. So if you see something that's just like popping up, it's very infrequently purely organic. It's someone's agenda who understands that if I do this right here, then it trickles down and I get more bang for my marketing dollar. But it's crossed. I agree with you here. Doesn't matter if it's profitable or not. S&P 500 and GDP is propped up on AI companies. It's inevitable that the big print is coming to bail them out. That's definitely a potential reality, either to bail them out or they want it to pop and wipe everything out. Like, your guess is as good as mine. Keith, where does your mind and heart go?
Yeah. No. I mean, I just agreed with both of those potential realities,
Mhm.
and that concept, by the way, just like because I remember the Great Reset. It came out during the 2020 health crisis,
Mhm.
and it came from the World Economic Forum. And so like it's turned into what Wikipedia or whatever we'll call like a conspiracy theory, but like they said it,
They said
like
it,
they
yeah.
came up with it. So you can see here it was a known as a Great Reset Initiative, an economic recovery plan that was proposed by the World Economic Forum in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The project was launched in June 2020. Its stated objective is to support global recovery from the pandemic in a manner that emphasizes sustainable development. Okay, and so one of the pages that pulls up when you search this term is World Economic Forum, Sustainable Development. Now is time for a great reset. Now, what's
That's on
funny
their
is that
website.
Yeah.
Bro, see,
And
now we're gonna get the little Wikipedia thing underneath our video.
well, yeah, we'll see what happens. But also, it's super interesting to see that here it says this, but when I clicked on it and the metadata right from Google, it says now it's time for a great reset of capitalism.
Whoa,
So that's what's actually there on the
interesting.
metadata. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's interesting that's not matching with that title. Let me see if you even. Okay, so they say this is our best chance to investigate stakeholder, excuse me, to instigate stakeholder capitalism, and here's how it can be achieved. I also remember that term being thrown around quite a bit. Um, this idea of stakeholder capitalism, basically making sure that other people are involved in the process. In fact, I don't know if we have this as a part of the show today or not. Asipa, you stop me if it is, but JD Vance was just on Joe Rogan, and he basically made a very interesting statement about the idea that like with AI leading to more basically wealth inequality,
Mhm.
that could turn into a different form of a governance system or economic system that looks much more like communism than capitalism. If if people aren't participating in the growth that's happening from all of AI, do we have that already in the show, Asipa?
We have something, but I don't know if that specific point.
Okay. 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 So let me play that real quick.
Yeah, go for
I'll
it.
play that real quick and then we'll come back to what we were talking about.
Cool.
Another guy owns 35 mansions, right? That to me is the fundamental challenge of AI. Is it's going to unleash a lot of wealth creation, but if that wealth creation all goes to some segment of people, you're going to have communism. Like that is the choice before us. Is a lot of wealth being created. That's good, by the way. I like wealth being created, but if you don't ensure that there's some broader prosperity from that wealth creation, like we have run this experiment before and it leads to communism.
Right. So
Anyways, just kind of what the rhetoric is around some of what's happening at the moment. Um, I think the point that he's trying to make is that I'm not actually 100% sure that's a small clip from what he's saying, but like when wealth concentrates to that level, right, then that can lead to the same type of an outcome as communism, or rather, people will get so upset, right, that they'll like push back against that so hard that the only answer is communism. I think that's kind of the point that he's trying to make.
Man, all these isms though are such a funny thing because so much propaganda has been put towards creating a specific belief or approach to what that is. So even depending on which propaganda you saw, how old you are, people have different definitions for these very words. So it's such like a difficult conversation to even participate in because almost everyone I know either doesn't know what these words mean or has a different understanding of what they think the words mean too.
Totally. Also, real quick, Cross Central, just remember that Vance is Peter Thiel's puppet. So I kept seeing that as a comment on the podcast, but I didn't understand that. Can you explain what that's about,
Oh, you don't
Cross
know about
Central?
that?
No, I don't.
Oh, wow. That's kinda shocking. Okay, so Peter Thiel is basically been created sorry, Peter Thiel basically created JD Vance. So JD Vance has had his whole career trajectory, this character that is JD Vance funded by Peter Thiel. So he, like, plucked him from when he was a lawyer at law school, whatever. I think it was Ohio State, if I recall correctly. Basically, 'cause have you ever heard of the movie that was about JD Vance's life? Hillbilly
No.
Elegy or something like
Oh,
that?
I thought it was a book.
It's also a
Maybe, I
movie.
don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that.
So this his rise, it's difficult to say it was purely organic because he another thing too was that Peter Thiel just basically gave him this pretty large fund when he had no experience of running a fund before. So there's all these things where Peter Thiel has been very much involved with this from the very beginning, and so it's difficult to and then some of the comments on the Joe Rogan podcast with JD Vance were truly hilarious because they're like, we're not helping the whole compromised belief with this one, guys. So there's a lot of funny comments there.
Word. Word. Yeah, I'm completely out of the loop on that piece. I had no idea. But fascinating. I'll pull up real quick too, because I do want people to see these comments because it was a big part of
On the Joe Rogan stuff?
cultural moment. Yeah.
Oh, dude, people are going in.
So Intinent said, Peter Thiel, hey JD, go check on the DMT guy.
It's also super sus with JD because he was so anti-Trump at one point, and then now he's his VP. So a lot of people are like, okay, the big tech guys went to Trump and were like, we will help you, we will give you the funding, we will make sure you win, we control the social media platforms, etc. But JD's got to be your VP.
Okay. And so this comment, by the way, I'm getting it now. He's saying, go check on the DMT guy being Joe Rogan.
Totally. Yeah. So basically,
Okay.
they're saying like he's a useful puppet in this scenario, basically.
Gotcha. And then yours 2K says the Peter Thiel experience. The billionaire glazing experience. This guy said it's criminal that Tim Dillon isn't there to co-host.
That would be super good.
The comments are saving this guy's faith in humanity. That's super fair. This guy said the Palantir experience. Okay, gotcha. Okay, interesting. JD Vance, friend of the show. Yeah, super. Okay, well, I gotta watch it now. That's super interesting. People are absolutely ripping that. But yeah, to that point of the isms thing, I definitely like. To be honest with you guys, like in the past month or 2-3 weeks that I've been here in Brazil, I've just really started to realize how much of that is ingrained into my system. And I've traveled a nice amount, but like
it's impossible not to be, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody still is being influenced in one way or another. Because that's the thing that I'm realizing here is I'm just like in the sea of people who like the default answer to them is communism, and I just like didn't. I've just never been in that. You know what I'm saying?
Have you asked them to define to you what communism is to them? Sorry, can't speak.
No, like tonight, I'm gonna try to do that. Like, because I try to use these Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights to go out and like talk to people and stuff.
Cool.
So I'm gonna try to, because I've realized like, yeah, like I need to ask these questions, because it's clearly there.
Yeah, and
yesterday was when I realized like, oh, like everyone thinks that this is like the thing. It's normal.
And also, we have been conditioned in the West to like see that as like lesser for one, and also we're told what their opinions are on it, or even what it is. Period. Right. So I'll be very curious to hear from them, like what it is that they say they even want.
Yeah, and it'll be somewhat difficult.
True, because it's language Portuguese, right?
But I will still try.
That's very hard, actually.
Teach me some of the language.
But have you found that a lot of people there speak English too?
Not at that level, if at all.
Got it.
So yeah, yesterday I had a really cool class, man. Like, because I mean, I'm paying for it, right? And this is how all stuff should be. Like, I'm basically like designing my own curriculum in life now, right? Like, super random, but like, I'm realizing that. And so I'm going to these classes to learn Portuguese, but I'm asking about the culture. Because also that teaches you about the language as well. Like, why is this how this is said? And because you can tell with Latin-based languages that, like, I think I brought up an example already, that like their marital status is like their civic status. Like, that's technically how they say it. It's like civis. Forget it, but it's like a civil status. And like, yes, marital status in the US is that. Like, it is like you're either married or single, and therefore you pay taxes, right? Based upon that category. Doesn't matter if you have a girlfriend or you married, because that's your tax status. Okay, cool. But here, the word that's used is civis. And so I'm like, okay, I get that it's the same concept, but you're also saying that, like, basically, if this person is not married, then they are civically like in a different part of society. And if you go back in history, that is the case. Like, I think we already talked about this on the pod, but like, if you're not married, you're like an outcast of the society as a woman or whatever in certain like societies. So anyways, how did I get to that? Point was like language and like trying to communicate about these tisms and isms and stuff will definitely be super interesting, and I'll learn a lot both from the language and like what these people think through going through that.
Yeah, definitely. Please share on the show. I'd be super curious to hear about all this stuff. And we also have some people that we're trying to get on the show who talk about these things all the time, like professionally. Their job is to talk about these different kinds of systems. And then there's a lot of characters that fight for specific types of communism, capitalism, all these different things, because even what we're told is what we're operating within as free market capitalism, like that's horse shit. Like we are not operating within free market capitalism or anything closely resembling a meritocracy. Like that's just simply not what we're in, but we're told that we're in that.
Yeah, and I think that that's been one of the most revealing things. Also, just talking to Jeff Booth, you know what I'm saying, is like we see some of these tech leaders like throw that term around,
Mhm.
like talking about like that's the aspiration, but we're just so far away from it, like so far away from that.
Totally.
Uh,
And
yeah,
with a lot of these guys, like they had to have been either allowed to win or picked to win from whoever's running this whole thing. And but you'd only pick someone who is convinced that they did it on their own, right? Because that's how you keep the whole facade continuing, is because they have to genuinely believe, like, oh, I'm the reason I'm here, not the deep state made me come here. Do you know what I mean?
and so the conversations that I was having with this like super communist person was like that concept for capitalism in general. Like you have to believe that you're the one who made it work, because otherwise it means that
It's
that yeah,
broken.
you weren't chosen. But in a way, you conforming to these thoughts is what makes you chosen, right? Because it is, as an example, I'm not saying that that's what it has to be,
Mhm.
but like at the highest level, probably like yes, that's probably what it looks like. But also, but the point is that the communist says that capitalism requires people to think that they can make it even when they have no chance.
Totally. Now I get what you're saying. 100%. I think that's what all of it is. And the survivorship bias is crazy because usually that's coming from people who were super successful, right?
Right.
And almost
Exactly.
every time the people who were super successful, like they say, of course there are exceptions here and there, but even the people who were like the rags to riches story, when you really dig into a lot of their stories, it's like if you were rags, how were you around all these people? You know, like the example that I go to is the Starbucks guy when he's talking about how Bill Gates' dad went and like fought off a competitor out of like ethics or whatever. And it's like, okay, if you're a rags to riches guy, how the fuck do you know Bill Gates?
Super
Do
interesting.
you know what I'm saying? Like, 'cause, like, when his whole
Yeah.
corp and there's probably so much more. If you guys know the story way more, please let me educate me in the comments. But his whole thing when he was getting pushed in whatever sort of court he was in, he basically was talking about how he came from nothing, which is, like, probably possible, but how do you know Bill Gates if you came from nothing? I feel like getting around him is probably not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that kind of like at the end of the day, right? There's people who have power, money, success, whatever, and they will near themselves to you based upon a certain set of criteria, whatever that criteria may be, right? Like for instance, like everyone who pops off doesn't get that hand, right? Like even as you and I, we're gonna have people that we see that are doing super cool stuff, and we want to like try to help them or support them whatever way we can,
Totally.
right? But so the question then becomes for the people who have the elite levels of that power and success,
Mhm.
do they all have a certain mentality? Do they all have a certain thing that they're reaching out to in particular that helps them push some agenda that they're trying, you know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah,
guess that's
yeah.
kind of what.
No, I totally get what you're saying. I think there are a lot of good people. There are a lot of successful people that are really good people, but I think there's also a lot of evil people that are successful. And I think that oftentimes those are the examples that get pushed down our throat of like, this is what the epitome of success looks like. So that's why the Gates example is one that's fascinating to me because he's been like that character of capitalism for like 2 generations ago. Like so much so that like I really don't mess with Bill Gates whatsoever. And my grandparents, my grandparents bought me his book for Christmas. 'Cause
Interesting.
he's their guy,
Interesting.
right?
Right.
He when they were coming up, like, that was the example of, like, "Oh, he's a genius, da, 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 da." But, we'll get back to the AI stuff. Like, why we talk about all this stuff is because these systems are gonna be redefined through AI, either because they have to be or because they wanted them to be, and they needed a tool or an excuse or a reason to do it.
Totally. Yeah.
And
Um,
I've been waiting to pop this one up for a long time, and it seems like the chat is
what's
fixed to
up?
SEPA, which is good. What a sale said, "It'll be interesting to see where investors would retreat to if AI bursts: gold, Bitcoin, and crypto." So I think you're probably right. Hard assets like gold, maybe silver, Bitcoin. I still see a very real scenario where like traditional stock market is tanking, and if the only thing going up is crypto, then I think a lot of people would flood there. So I do think there's a scenario where stock market goes down, crypto goes up in like complete opposite directions. You got something, Keith?
Actually, just saw Luke Groman make a really important take about this that I think is worth listening to. So I'm going to pop that up real quick.
The other 2 months, it was the second biggest after pharmaceutical preparations and oil last month. You can see what the Chinese are doing. You can see what they've been doing. You can see what central banks are doing. You can see the price rising. I mean, if you and I were sitting down doing this interview even 4 or 5 years ago, you can go ask any of your contacts in gold 4 or 5 years ago. If I would have gone to you and said, gold's at 5,500, what's going on outside? They would be, oh, there's zombies walking the street, economic collapse. And that's been part of it too, where gold went to 5,500 and the sun came up and the lights came on and the market still worked. And the beauty of gold, there's a lot of things that are beautiful about it, but the beauty of gold is it's not used for anything. It's ironic. The very thing that most people detract from gold, it's not used for anything, are why it's so useful as a monetary asset, as a reserve asset. Because look, gold could go to 1 million. And what's going to get hurt? Now, take corn. Take corn to $1,000 a bushel as a reserve asset. What's going to happen? 6 billion people are going to starve. Take oil to $1,000 a barrel to make it the reserve asset to back the dollar like we did in the 70s, right? What's going to happen? The world economy collapses at 150 as rates surge and what have you. So gold can go up and up and up, and it's not hardly used for anything. And so that's why I think whether you look at, when I talked about the trend we're seeing, gold to oil ratio has gone from 13 to 60. Gold to treasuries surging. Stock prices down in gold 30% since 2022. You can see over and over and over. So gold went to 5,000, nothing happened. Gold goes to 10,000, nothing happened. Nothing's going to happen. Go to 15,000. And ultimately, what will happen is you're going to rebalance and reorder global trade in a way. What does everybody say they want? Both the Chinese and the Americans. Americans want the Chinese to consume more and produce less. The Chinese want the ability to trade in their own currency. What gold going to 10,000 does both of those things.
Nothing is as useful.
Thoughts, Keith?
So, I mean, I think that's a super interesting take, right? Like, what breaks if gold goes up to $1 million? Someone brought up some important points. SV Thor said false, medical, and electronic. And I do think that there's like some industrial uses for gold, right? But maybe his point is that there's substitutes in
That's
some
what I was
way.
about to ask. Is that the exclusive thing that can be used for that use case, or are there alternatives?
Yeah, like I do think there are some levels of substitutes.
Yeah. China's been accumulating obscene amounts of gold, and what's his name again? Andre Żyk has been making a lot of videos about this as of late for what's being done behind the scenes in so many places, countries. They're consuming and buying so much gold.
Yeah. And so, I wish he would have touched on Bitcoin there. Maybe he does at some other point in that interview, but like, what breaks if Bitcoin goes up to $1 million? I kind of feel like it's also outside of the system enough for it to not have that much of an impact. Because in both of those cases, you do still have a collapse of the dollar, right? Like that is still the absolute end of the dollar in a sense. And so, like, does Bitcoin serve as an even more legitimately, it's not used for anything kind of an asset? Like, because gold does have some industrial things to it. And like,
What's up?
the thing that I'm thinking through too is like, okay, if gold goes up to those prices, you have a bunch of gold miners, right? That start to mine. And same thing with Bitcoin. You'd have a bunch of facilities being set up to try to go out and mine. Now, the problem with that would be that you would have to find more effective uses of space, for one, because otherwise you're going to cover the planet with Bitcoin miners at some point. And then you'd have, and there's probably something that I'm logically missing here around why that wouldn't be the case. But then also the energy piece. Elon Musk actually was a few months back, probably maybe last year, where he made the statement talking to, the guy who does, where he was like, energy is is what is likely to be the currency of the future. And he talks about how like there are some commodity backed or like purely physics based monies that exist. And he just said Bitcoin. And so that's the other thing that comes to my mind. He was like, you obviously can't print energy, right? Like you can't do that. And that's the thing about Bitcoin. Like that's what Bitcoin essentially represents, is that you cannot just print energy. It has to be cultivated, has to be harvested in some sort of a way. I guess is the best way to put that. And so the question becomes, if Bitcoin is at $1 million, or if that happens in a rapid time frame, the response to that is either going to be covering the entire world with Bitcoin miners and bad sources of energy, or the incentivization to like use the cleaner forms of energy to prevent that from being a catastrophic event. Bitcoin going up to $1 million. So that's just kind of how my brain went through the idea of like, okay, but what would break if Bitcoin did that too?
Yeah, I don't know how much the emphasis would be on the cleanliness of the energy as much as it would be probably on the economic efficiency of the capturing of the energy that would probably happen, which is what Jeff had said, is that would force people to compete to be more and more efficient because that would cover the costs. So in turn, the same things happen, I guess. But yeah, it's gonna be fascinating to see, because it seems like something like that's going to happen, whether it's gold, whether it's Bitcoin, whatever it takes, probably a bit of both. But for and I think it directly does tie into the AI equation. I think you can't talk about one without talking about the other. I think they're so tightly connected, and you've gotten a lot of shit over the years, Keith, for saying that they should be in the same conversation. And I just think that anyone who doesn't think that, like, you're too much in a silo, in my opinion. But we got one more clip from Ed, because a lot of people are saying that they think this is 2008 all over again. So let's hear for what Ed has to say about the similarities, differences, and if this bubble will pop, referring to the AI bubble.
I want to start with something. People keep saying OpenAI is too big to fail, blah, blah, blah. This is an intellectual crutch. It is a way of not thinking about the actual problems. OpenAI, Anthropic won't be bailed out. They could get some government funding through a stake or a sovereign wealth fund. It shouldn't happen. Maybe it will. People say, oh, Trump's just going to do what they want because it gets bailed out. Stop. First of all, stop giving them the idea, but also stop giving up so easily. Also, that's a lazy way of looking at it. So, great financial crisis is not what most people think. There was the TOP program, Troubled Asset Relief Program, that existed to buy dodgy mortgages and securities and bonds off of the banks, and also bail out the auto industry. There was $40 billion that was meant to help foreclosures. It didn't do anything. But that wasn't really what the bailout was. The real bailout was something called the PRDC and the TSLF, the term security long. Basically, it was feeding banks money to take their bonds so that they could get overnight funding. Banks are funded through overnight funding through the repo facility. $100 billion a week. That was because if they didn't do this, the banks would run out of money. Like, that is as simple as it is. The bailout was not for stocks. The bailout was not for companies other than the auto and the bank industry, which were critical to the American infrastructure. OpenAI and Anthropic are not critical to anything other than the single most annoying hype cycle in history. NVIDIA, Meta, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they're not dying of this. NVIDIA's revenue could be cut by 90% comfortably, maybe more. They were making single-digit billions of dollars in 2023. They could easily return to that. NVIDIA has bet everything on this. I get why they did it. NVIDIA isn't dying, though. Now, could Jensen Huang need a pardon one day? I don't know. I hope NVIDIA isn't selling GPUs to China and they find proof of that, because that would be illegal. I'm not accusing them. I'm just saying there's a lot of articles that suggest that. So a bailout of the AI industry would likely be one of a few things. It would be a bailout of the data center loans. This would be probably the most historically unpopular government program ever. It would make 2008 look like a beloved socialist policy, because can you think the only industry I think hated more than the banks would be data centers, and this would be bailing out data centers for the banks. Insane stuff. Truly won't happen. Also would be hundreds of billions of dollars. Just not going to happen. Now, you can say, well, Trump will get bribed. Trump will get bribed. The US government will happily let companies die. They do it all the time. And also, fundamentally, the AI bubble is a speculative stock bubble. It is the crazed valuations based on a non-existent industry, an industry that pretends it's big by spending a lot of money, but is actually maybe $100 billion of revenue a year, including compute costs.
I love the quote. I threw it up there. That how are you now? Put it there as well. Don't stop giving up so easily. That's the thing too. Is that one? I think we all collectively do that too much. There's too much doomerism there. But two, if they bailed them out again, like too many people understand the concept. I think. Like maybe we are just
That's
so
true.
passive. We're like we wouldn't do anything, and we are like just goyim or cattle, as they say. But I don't think I think people are too hurt at this time, right? Like how much because for 2008 when that happened, there was like a long period of time where the people who could have had a serious issue, like their life was pretty good for a very long period of time. Whereas since 2008, like was life ever like really that great again? You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like has there been enough of a oh here you go, we built you back up to knock you back over and people not freak out? I don't think so. Think all the
mm.
bullshit we've dealt with since '08, man.
Yeah, um, that's super true. I don't think there's been any period of time where people, and I mean, even, geez, man, like there's since at least our lifetimes, it feels like there hasn't been, not in the United States at least, like this prolonged period of prosperity.
Mhm.
Um,
It's 'cause
like
even
there's
when
just pockets of it.
yes, yes, and even when it's there, it's propped up on something else, right? Like, let's say for Canada, they've maintained some sort of semblance of middle class, but it's been through foreign money laundering, like propping
Mm,
up the housing market and flooding immigration to ruin anybody who wasn't already financially comfortable or in the housing market, right? So it's like there's the perception of, oh, things aren't that bad if they weren't that bad for people before, but it made everything
right.
else substantially worse. It's like every pocket where you see like people are saying, "Oh, I'm okay." It's like you're only okay because they felt like your existing influence and leverage was something worth maintaining. So they sacrificed the life of other people that they didn't feel had that kind of power. And so that's just present all over the place.
Yeah, and '08 is probably a really good barometer too, because like, well, everyone got crushed in the housing market there, right? Which was where a lot of people in the West hold their wealth, right?
Mhm.
And so if you weren't at that time buying at the bottom, then you weren't necessarily at a place where you're going to have this super incredible advantage where we're at today, where prices are technically rising or have been rising for the past couple of decades. Um, so so yeah, if you didn't have a good job, and the jobs went, a lot of jobs went away at that point.
Mhm.
And so if you weren't, I guess, like in e-commerce specifically at that time, basically, or social media, right? Those are two sectors that have like absolutely boomed
From
since
which time?
2008.
Yeah, yeah,
From
yeah. Tech.
2008. Yeah, tech generally, true. If you weren't in that sector, then you weren't getting like super successful
Mhm.
throughout this past 2 decades.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and so yeah, like there's not that many people who are like, oh, I'm going to fight to protect the way that things are right now, for
I
sure.
I think too many people are realizing that this stuff is messed up, bro, right? So if they did that again, I don't know, because there are alternatives, right? People are all saying, okay, no one would flood to like a neutral asset, decentralized asset like something like Bitcoin. But it's like everything has a threshold. Like what has to be hit, right? Because even the people that are saying they would never leave their existing stores of wealth, yeah, because they're currently a store of wealth. If that
Hmm.
starts to go down and the other thing's going up, I don't think people are as attached to these things as everyone thinks they are. I just think they're at a price, and all they look at is that dollar figure. If that dollar figure is over here and it happens to be crypto, but Bitcoin, whatever we decide, I think people move, and I think they move pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, the funny thing to think about with all that being too is like the tokenization of everything, because the question then becomes how easy is that to do, right? And then you look at the financial system and the infrastructure that's being built that makes it easy to do,
Mhm,
right? You think about Robinhood launching their chain. You think
mhm.
about Coinbase having base. Like once Coinbase also has stocks and all of this, then actually that does become one place where that transaction can take place. Right now, it's not the case. Right now, you do have to
True.
like, oh, I got to make this conscious decision to
It's a very
sell and move it to crypto.
yes, it's a very different thing. So you're having to say, "I am a crypto person," and there's such a negative
Exactly.
connotation to that. And that also, little social listening is that I always keep tabs on who are the major, lever movers. And Graham Stephan, who's like the pinnacle of like TradFi from a YouTube perspective, he's now shilling a crypto advertisement. And I'm like, that's hard to believe that's a coincidence, because if I was trying to time this thing, because even they've pretty openly talked about how they're not that bullish on crypto, which is kind of crazy. I'm like, you took this ad? I've listened to your podcast and it doesn't seem like it aligns with your values that much. But I guess everyone's got a
Super
price.
fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. What was it like a brokerage? Was it
So
a
SoFi,
Oh, okay, yeah. So
but
SoFi is a great example.
it was
They
like
sit right in the middle.
totally. But he was saying crypto over and over
Right,
and
right,
over again, right? Because I know that they do have a lot of offerings, but this was all about crypto,
Gotcha.
which leads me to believe that like they're front running something that's going to happen. So that way the TradFi people are just like, oh, this is what Buddy uses. This is what I'm gonna use.
Yeah. Yeah, SoFi is probably the perfect example of that because they've very much so from their inception been like a neobank and like pushing people towards like, yes, it's digital banking, but also we've got, the Cash App version of crypto, custody kind of a thing.
What's a neobank?
A neobank is just a bank that's digital first, right? Like they
Got
don't
it.
have any branches basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's so fascinating, man. All these things. I will say, guys, it's a pretty crazy time to be alive. And a lot like what Ed says, a lot like what Jeff says, is that we have a lot more agency than anyone like thinks about.
Yeah, like the visual that came to my head when you guys were talking about the like don't just take it so easily, don't just give up so easily is like a bully. Like a bully is going to keep bullying you until you hit him.
Until they know you can't.
Like-
Totally. That's what my dad would always be like, if someone's bullying you, like you can stop it as soon as you want. You may get hurt stopping it, but as
Yeah.
long as there's a threat, they won't do it again. Because
Totally.
the fear lies into what I could do. Because what I could do will almost always be worse than what could actually happen. Right? Because your mind
Mhm.
starts going to the deepest, darkest places because we're survival-based creatures. So if you think of a negative outcome, you catastrophize that thought to a point where it's like, oh my God, the whole world is gonna die. When really it's just like you put a clink in that armor, he probably stops.
100%. So yeah, like I there was this one clip of this comedian back in the day who was talking about like something about like change the world. I'm pretty sure we played it once, or at least I brought this up before. And he's like, the only way that things are going to change is through revolution. In a lot of ways, like I kind of think that that's true.
But we
because
don't need
of
to
that
do a physical
example.
one anymore. It's a financial one, right? It's a tech-based one.
I guess, but the problem then becomes that the technology can also be used against you in these scenarios that we're talking about. Like
It already is,
like
though.
it is. We're also at a point right now where it's like, oof, like how much could you do physically anyways, period.
That's what I mean. I think it's their only option.
So yeah. And then the question becomes, okay, well, once again, like, is this being manufactured? Could this be a manufactured thing? That's why,
Totally.
yeah, let the things fall, let AI collapse, let that
Mhm.
impact the entire economy.
So everyone moves.
So that people then are begging, right, for that other option.
Mhm. And we feel like it was ours. Like we feel
Yep.
like we picked it.
Like to your original point.
Yeah, 100%. But no, it's fascinating, and all of this stuff plays into it because the tech sector, as we've discussed, which we can go back to the sheet, Keith, where how much of the whole S&P 500, which is a lot of people's wealth and a lot of what America views itself as, even when Trump speaks about anything, he's always like stock market, stock market, stock market, and that's propped up by like 7 companies, man, the Mag 7. And how much of it do they make up right now, in terms of percentage wise?
Yeah, it's close to 1/3
Okay,
of the entire S&P 500
yeah,
rides on
right about 1/3.
7 companies.
Which
So
is insane.
it's Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Alphabet, and Google, Meta Platforms, and Tesla. So
33% of a 500 company index.
wild. And so as an investor, like what are the solutions to something like that is doing the equal weighted joints?
Yes, you talked about that a
the-
bunch.
Yeah. So because I as an investor also have a problem with thinking like, oh well, I'm just not going to invest in that. Like the odds here are just too messed up. It's just everything is just messed up.
It's
Like,
super messed up. The stock market, for me, is a massive Ponzi scheme, and ETFs or index funds just made it all the more efficient because like the level of resistance for the average retail money to participate in the Ponzi was there was too many layers of friction. When you create the index fund, then the people who controlling the companies within the 500 get to decide everything because now the people who would complain about what those companies would do are also in on it because they're making money from those unethical practices.
mm,
Like I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have here is that even the people complaining about all this stuff, the majority of their wealth is in the S&P 500.
right. Now that's a fascinating thought for sure.
Like even the people who complain like I
Um,
hate AI, it's like okay, do you own any stock? Do you own any like the S&P 500 index, right? Or do you own any of those tech stocks? Like then you can't say both.
yeah. Yeah. It's just yeah, dude, that's a super tough reality here. The incentives are totally screwed. Even the people who are mad, how long are they going to be mad at AI? Like, are they mad about it going up? Really? Are they mad that they're at least not so much further behind? But that's the thing too, is like people are struggling anyways. So the
Yeah.
stock market going up doesn't really matter that
Doesn't
much,
impact the
right?
people who are already suffering, totally. And to
Uh,
speak to the whole big print or the bailout from the AI, another thing we need to consider is not only would the people accept it, but would the world allow it to happen again? Right? Especially now that China's been building for a long period of time to create this alternative currency. Like, can you pull that again?
that is another point about this that's a little bit different than the housing crash. I mean, that led to a total financial sort of Armageddon, right? Because of the loans made on the loans and the loans, which you probably could argue that like the private equity market, you brought that up last time, I think, is tied into this in a level that which that would probably have some contagion as
There's
well,
so many
right? If these
bubbles, man.
companies went bankrupt. So, but the idea of wow, there being some sort of an escape valve, man. That's definitely an interesting thought for sure. But another thing about it is like the way, like the dynamics of markets, because this is something that can be a little bit confusing. So if the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq just like started to crash, those values that are crashing aren't necessarily real money. In fact, it's not real money. It's just values that are
Yeah.
collapsing.
Yeah. Which is all horseshit fugazi now. Right? Because like a lot of people don't understand like a lot of these funds that buy the S&P 500, they're automated transactions. So basically like let's say your investment advisor, your employer, whatever, a percentage of it every month, the money that you make goes into this. So it's an always up Ponzi scheme. So even the numbers that you're looking at are only there because that Ponzi scheme is set up. So it keeps
Mhm.
so to build on what Keith's saying, just to try to make it more clear, is that like we're looking at these prices, but those prices are like fake upon layers of fake. It's like I buy this because it goes up. I'm buying it because I buy it every month, and then that's what makes it go up. And so I keep buying it. And just
And so the dynamic of that in the opposite direction, right? So let's say, okay, AI is collapsing, it's on the news, right? So now it's de facto the thing. Um, if during that time there's a clear alternative to where to put your money that presents itself, right? As in the only way that'll be will be through the price, right? The price of something is like skyrocketing as this is
Mhm.
happening. Like, whoa, wait a minute. So then, if that's the case, then I need to take this money that I have in this thing and put it over into this other thing. And the reason that I'm trying to like you don't need all of the money in AI to come out of it for the values to collapse. These are valuations, right? They're valuations. It's people who are trading at a specific price,
Yes,
right? It's not that the money has to actually be there or move. So, with that being the case, same effect can happen going into something else,
totally. And then if
right?
that starts to experience a crazy level of appreciation, then like there's multi levels of panic, right? This thing that I thought couldn't go down is going down, and this thing that I thought would never go up is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like I need to go in there now because this is going so crazy so fast.
Lost your camera, or at least I did. Oh no, I see you back. And then yeah, and then what the heck happens after that, right? I just put out a video a couple, or I guess last week, that was about like governments and how like very slyly stacking Bitcoin, or at least holding on to whatever they have. And then, like the thought experiment of Michael Saylor, you've talked about it a lot, like potentially being like this sort of proxy through which the United States government is acquiring all this Bitcoin.
If that ever gets announced, bro, we got to find the clip for the first time I said that on the show, because that was a long time ago.
For sure. And so, like, okay, so that happens, then what? Like, if that scenario that we were just painting out just happens, then then now the people who did that thing, they're fine. But like anyone who wasn't participating yet, or is just trying to buy it as it's doing this thing, like you potentially been like locked out of this generational opportunity. Um,
Because go ahead.
yeah,
Because if
no,
gold becomes that asset that we're referring to on like a nation state level, and the whole reason they're doing that is because they can hold it tangibly. It's like, well, I know I can't. Right. So if enough consumers understand that perspective, I think they'll become a lot more bullish on Bitcoin, because I know it's like a digital thing, but I can actually have it on me.
yes.
What?
No, it's just a funny thought.
Simon
Because I
Dixon
know
been saying
a lot
that
of
for like a
people are
year
like,
before. I only found out about Simon Dixon like a year, probably about a year ago.
there's definitely been people that have said it, but doesn't negate the idea of propagating that idea, or saying that as well. Um, but yeah, so if you had that kind of a thing happen, right? Which is the whole reason that we do this show, the whole reason that I've done a lot of other things in the past, is like, yo, there's only so much Bitcoin, right? So if there's ever a moment where the world like just all of a sudden recognizes that, or uh whatever, like people who aren't paying attention are just they're out.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's a
See,
scary thought to me.
it's also, to me, even further thinks that this could be a coordinated thing, right? Because the amount of comprehension that can take place when it's needed to is crazy. But for a lot of people, they would never ever learn things unless they're forced to, right? Like the level of pain has to reach that point where they actually go and learn it. Brian Mario saying, "Can you though?" I think you're referring to hold self custody Bitcoin. I think
Hmm.
you can if you learn how, and to stop that across the board would be pretty difficult for nation states, especially because it gets harder and harder to do the more people that do it.
To self custody.
Yes, to stop that or make that illegal, like that gets harder and harder to do the more people that are doing it.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think you could. I think you could make it really hard though for people to self custody. I don't think people would. I don't think people would self custody. Like people don't know. They don't know any better. They just see the price going up. They want it. You know what I'm saying? That's all that would happen.
Yeah.
How do I get it? Coinbase.
So,
The
so you
end.
just make it easier for them.
Yeah. And it'd just be, yeah, like it would just get forever harder to hold self custody, because there are only so many choke points really for that. Like there's Trezor, Ledger. You know what I'm saying? Like so you could easily attack those companies, and then how many people will know that you don't need those companies to have your self custody? Like, you know, then it
Mhm.
gets to like less than 1% of even the crypto holders, that realize
Self
that yeah,
custody,
you could.
totally.
Um,
You can't stop
um,
confiscation, but you also gotta remember like how fragile the trust is within nation states too, right? So a lot of the things that we're saying like, oh, they can just do this. It's like you have to maintain some semblance of order, like, and look how far past we are that, right? So every little thing is under more of a microscope, right? For example, even in Canada with the whole condo bailout thing, because there's a lot of things that have been going on that got a lot of scrutiny that's not typically there, right?
mm,
If he had done that when times were a little bit better, probably no one makes it a big deal. But there's enough people that are hurting that it was loud enough where they're like, "Oh, whoa, we didn't mean it just like that. We meant it like this." Because they're always testing in the pulse, right? Of like, can I get away with
right,
this? Do these people understand this? Will they get mad about
right.
this? Right? So it really does depend on like what we are and aren't okay with.
Yeah, 100%, and that's right on Hull, with the paper wallets. Like, yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Like that's the ultimate level of self custody, is just pure paper wallet.
What do you mean paper wallet?
Um, Paper wallet is where it's like you just have your seed phrase,
Mhm.
essentially, and like you can use that to access your Bitcoin. Um, So you literally write it down on a piece of paper.
Mm.
And then you can use any tool to then log into your Bitcoin, or just
Yes.
to the Bitcoin blockchain itself, right?
Yes. The network. The Cross Central had said, I think somewhere that I think it was him or them who said Jeff Booth turned them into a Bitcoin maxi.
Whoa.
I'm sure that'll make Jeff happy to hear.
Yeah.
I was on a Bitcoin first live stream the other day, and he was purely just trying to sell me on the fact that, like, trying to get me to become a Bitcoin maxi.
Oh yeah, you were on it like as a guest, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was hilarious because I went back and watched it after, and like as there was a point where my mic dropped, so I had to go back in and go out and come back in, and he's like, see, we're convincing him. See, like, you can do this to people.
yeah.
And I was like, bruh.
That's funny. So to this conversation around the AI bubble-ish stuff, something to think about that has come up in our discussions and whatnot is a bubble that happens doesn't require that the thing that's occurring to be fake, right? Like, or just like non-existent thing, right? Like, for instance, when it came to the dot-com boom, it's not that these companies didn't build websites or like, build cool software applications, okay, but it still ended up being a bubble for that time being. There was a 2018 academic study of 51 major innovations that happened between 1825 and 2000. Things like the steam engine, the automobile, the internet. And it found that 73% of them produced a stock market bubble on the way to changing the way that everything worked. And the bigger and more visible the technology, the bigger that bubble tended to be. And bubbles tend to move in 4 major stages. You have money that floods into a new hot industry first. And then that flood turns into a boom that overbuilds the supply. And then that overbuilt supply will then crush the returns that attracted the money in the first place. And then the whole thing collapses. And then what's left behind gets bought for pennies by whoever shows up after. And then that leftover infrastructure often becomes the backbone of the next boom. So you can equate that to pretty much everything, like the housing market even, right? It was like prices went up, people overbuilt, a bunch of vacant houses, crashed the prices, and then you could buy those vacant houses at $0 on the penny. $0 on the penny. That's crazy. Same thing happened with Amazon. There's this cool chart that talks about basically what that looked like for the NASDAQ composite. So March 2000, you had a massive level that was hit, 4,732, and then a massive 75% retracement that took place in September 2002. And then you didn't get back to those highs again until August 2015. Right. And then, and that's a 4,700 NASDAQ composite, which today is at over around 20,000.
Your friend Sami shows this chart all the time to basically say like that could be what crypto is experiencing right now. Because if you look at that chart, it just randomly started going up only, right? But like, how long did it take for people to realize that was what's going to happen? Because there's been a lot of fake outs before that too, right? Because that's the craziest thing about all of the markets is that sentiment. We as humans, we're so malleable to the current moment. And so people always think it's different this time, like every time. And so it's really the internet gives you a massive opportunity to go back and see the headlines of things that were being written. That's also why it's very frustrating that Twitter is becoming harder and harder to find old tweets, because that was always a bit of a cheat code that I would do is I would try to go find what specific people were saying about the subject at the time when it was current. You can still do that with blog articles and stuff like that, but that'd be a cool tool to build. Like, say what topic and then the year, and then find like the biggest content around that, because everyone always thinks everything's different every freaking time. It's so funny. I love watching the Pokemon guys talk about their market right now and how like they don't think they're in a bubble. And I'm just like, okay, guys, wait, wait to see, because they keep saying the crazy thing about the Pokemon card situation is that because so many people do love Pokemon, they equate that to loving Pokemon cards. Right? So they're like, it's not a bubble because everyone actually loves what they're doing. It's like, no, man, they like the fact that they're making a ton of money from something they also kind of like. If that goes away, I guarantee you there's way less fans of Pokemon cards hella quick.
No, that's super true. But yeah, I mean, definitely a major thought around crypto as well. Like the first 10, 15 years of this thing being up only, and then like, all right, well, what if you have to have a massive retracement? And like, if we really look at the state of what the things are promising versus where we're at today, that wouldn't be super crazy to me to think that it might take another 10 years for this
For
stuff to like actually be used in the way that we're saying it will be.
for AI, crypto, what are you referring to?
Crypto.
Totally. Yeah. I still think things are dramatically underpriced across the board in the crypto industry, and typically when it feels the worst to buy is when you should probably be buying. So obviously you preach dollar cost averaging. If people have any bits of money, I'd be putting little bits in at the very least. Because look at what that would have been if you were buying tech stocks at that time, right? If you zoom
Totally.
out, like you got to really zoom out, of course. But if you zoom out, it's probably pretty unlikely that you're not going to be happy with that decision if you have a long enough time horizon. And if you put in tiny little clips, like just say, I'm not touching this for 5 or 10 years. I know that sucks and that's painful, but if you take that lens, you're probably going to do pretty well.
Yeah. And and yeah, I mean the major thing for me is just like, all right, what are the options right now? I think
It's
that's
true.
the major thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna buy SpaceX? Like, all right.
And yeah, the argument against crypto all the time is its risk profile. But I think a lot of people should be looking at the risk profile of things that aren't seen as risky currently, because that stuff can turn on
Right.
a dime as well. But what's next on the bubble front?
So right now, like looking at what does this look like for tech as it stands. So this year, uh, the big tech companies are expected to spend somewhere between 725 and $805 billion on AI infrastructure alone. Um, and Nvidia, right, throughout its monstrous rise, has crossed a $5 trillion market cap, and that was back in October 2025. It has traded as high as around a $5.5 trillion market cap in early July of this year. Now, they've earned about $120 billion in net income over the past year, which is more than double the year before. So, in that regard, right, it's worth understanding that there's money that's coming into the company. And the question just becomes, how much of a multiple are you paying on that growth? And then how sustainable is that growth in the future? And it's like, there's very little wiggle room in the valuations of these companies for them to miss. And that's the thing that's so interesting is these companies can like be more profitable at their earnings releases, but if they miss the estimates, the price will come down 20% or 10%, whatever, you know what I'm saying, during these times. And that's just like, that's actually what's been happening. And so what happens when the company's actually not growing their revenue? Like, what happens when that number actually turns red and
How do
not
people
just that they
respond to
missed
that?
the estimate? Yeah.
Well, look, even what the DeepSeek moment did in terms of dropping
Mhm.
of prices as well. Have you seen Warren Buffett is accumulating Google?
No, I did not see that. I did
Yes.
not. So, yeah, man. That and then, yeah. So, Alphabet, June this year, June 3rd, they closed an $85 billion stock sale, which is the largest equity offering in history, to help fund up to $190 billion of its own 2026 capex. Some more financial metrics about some of this stuff that's going on is you have OpenAI that made $13 billion in 2025, but that's against losses that are estimated from anywhere between 13 billion and 38 billion, depending on the source. It's a private company. We don't have exact data out there. Um, So, and then they revised their own cash burn forecast up by $111 billion to 665 billion dollars total through 2030. That's how much cash they're expecting to burn.
Absurd.
So that's crazy amounts of money for a company that's potentially not profitable at all.
And you also have to compare, because a lot of people use the analogy of this is how the last wave of big winners were built, right? You got to run at a loss for a long period of time, but these multiples and these numbers, they're not comparable. They're different levels.
No doubt. Yeah, that's a great point. When things get this big, man, like 20% drop becomes such a bigger thing. That's so many more jobs, right, that are kind of like being eliminated, more people who are in pain.
That's totally. That's also why I'm very confident that we don't see AGI, whatever that is, for quite a long period of time, is because I don't think that the structure could support the continued thrust of money and time and mind share to this long enough to even possibly get there. Because all this bullshit they say, like, we're still so far away from that, man. Like, AGI should be like, for truly AGI, what I think is that, like, I should have to give very little context to get to an amazing outcome. For right now, if you're not like pretty damn concrete on what it is you're trying to achieve, the AI will screw up, and even if you are, they will screw up pretty often.
That's super true.
So for this AGI thing, like, I'm gonna have freaking Jarvis here who's gonna solve my entire day. Like, I think we're so much farther away from that than they will possibly let you believe. And I still think that AI already is having crazy impacts on our day-to-day life, and it'll impact us in ways that we can't even fathom. But in terms of the ways that they're having to prop up for this stuff to happen,
Exactly.
I just think a lot of it's a fugazi.
Yeah. It's just, I didn't understand that really until, this conversation has been coming up, but it's just like, you can have the change.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, you can have the change, but at what price? Like, literally what price? Is it a profitable price? But what were you saying?
Yeah, this hysteria is also happening because of what these things are good at. So many people made that jumped from lower class to upper class. They did it through software of some kind, right? Like, they were either the developer themselves or they were part of a development-based, software-based company. And so, of course, people are over-indexing on how powerful these tools are because what they're the best at had the most economic ties to, like, the last creation of wealth. And so because that's happening, I think they're over equating what this can do in other realms, in my opinion, because they're attaching, like, the dollar figures, like, look what it's doing here. And I think that they think every problem is a software problem. And so, like, okay, if every problem is a software problem and this expedites the path of efficiently creating software, as they're saying, then it should solve every problem. And I just think I think these guys are too much in their own world to grasp the bigger picture, but they're able to have these big picture conversations because of the narrative that they've pushed out.
That's a very, very strong point. Market Andreessen, software is eating the world.
They all say that shit.
Put out back in the world. Yeah.
And maybe they're right, but I look at the excess potential in a situation, they're all in on that reality. Whenever someone needs something to happen, I'm always like, you can't be being unbiased here. It's impossible. You've bet your entire world on this.
Right. So yeah, it comes down to, like, as an outsider, as an observer, like, just recognizing the bias in the viewpoint, right? Literally everything in their entire career in life is riding on this idea being true, and if it's not, then they lose bad.
Totally.
So
And I still think if you're a young person, you should learn how to use these tools to make yourself more efficient. Like, I think that's still something that's going to be a reality for the future of work. I think teams will get smaller, and the expectations of your ability to think and solve problems in an adaptive way using this technology will become the expectation in the workforce. But yeah, in terms of the reality that they're saying, where it's like these super intelligence models, I don't know how much of that will be a thing. I think a lot of people will be using, like, local models for a lot of these things. I think a lot of local models will be built for specific use cases. So, but where do we go next?
what up, Mary? Dribbling in late. Hey, chat. What up? What up? What up, Mary?
Hey, welcome back.
So basically, the math here is something to take a look at. So JP Morgan estimated that the AI industry needs about $650 billion a year in revenue forever to earn a 10% return on the money being poured into data centers through 2030. So to put that in perspective, JP Morgan's own comparison that they made, they said that's the same as charging every iPhone owner on earth an extra $35 a month, or every Netflix subscriber an extra $180. And now a separate MIT study of enterprise AI pilots in 2025 found that 95% delivered no measurable financial return to the companies. So you brought this up earlier, but Alex Karp also has said this in a way that was very public and open about how he felt that companies are sacrificing a lot in order to play around with this whole AI experiment. So let's hear what he had to say on CNBC the other day.
That business could transfer to this model tomorrow, i.e., I have no business, no job.
You sound pretty angry.
No, this is the
allergy, or
voice
is this-
of American business that is being channeled through me. And I'm telling you, it is absolutely a problem for this country because we are on the cutting edge of every single AI technology. But if you're going to triply oversell something, and by the way, the enterprises are just tired of it. But by the way, just a minute. I want everybody watching this to test what I'm saying, especially investors who think somehow this is working. Pick up the phone and call a CEO in private, not in public. Every single person here can do this. Call 2 or 3 and say, Madman Karp is on TV saying we're livid. I'm not going to quote you. You know I won't quote you. You have a history. And see, they're twice as livid as me.
So if you're right, though, does that mean
that business could transfer?
We've talked about that in the show before too, because there's a lot of risk, right? Because what are businesses? It's proprietary understanding of how to solve a specific problem. That's all a business is, right? And especially when you consider the fact that a lot of these has been instituted by just deliberate execution of software tools. With these data models that can build software, like the proprietary information is the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, true, very true. You saw that with like social media, right? How they kind of like all cannibalize each other's ideas.
They just,
And
100%, right? And who can execute on it the fastest to gain mind share and build the habit and all that stuff. How can he speak for Americans? He certainly doesn't speak for me. Yeah, I don't think he speaks for most people. I think he's referring to American business people. But go ahead, Keith.
Alex Karp is just such a fascinating figure right now because like half the stuff that he says, I low-key agree with.
Yeah, Matthew, I right here, yeah, 100%. There's also a financial incentive for him to push this narrative as well because he's involved with Palantir, right? So you got to be looking at incentives across the board. But one point I didn't want to forget was Roman saying, I think we are outsourcing our critical thinking, and that's scary. I actually disagree with that. I think this is just highlighting how few people actually know how to critically think. I truly don't think that if you know how to critically think, this is really atrophying it. I just think a lot of people thought they were critically thinking and they weren't. And so then now when you're relying on this, then the outcome's even worse because it's not being checked as much along the way. There isn't like a boss or a peer group that you're bouncing off of. You're doing it purely independently with this AI, and that's what's creating bad things. There are definitely a lot of people who will atrophy from it. Don't get me wrong, but I think this is more illustrating that not many people know how to do this.
Yeah, that's both very strong points. Because for the young people who are coming in, like, they're cooked because they don't have the boss yet, right? To help them know that they're going in these silos and not thinking and whatnot. Totally. But also, I think you're 100% on the money because it's also a critical thinking to recognize that that's not how you use these tools. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's highlighting that a lot of people aren't thinking in that way at all, period, as they're coming to these tools. But no, it's a super strong point.
Even a lot of really rich people that would consider themselves very smart and like really strong critical thinkers, they were in a point in time of change where you didn't even have to be that, but you got paid like you were. Do you get what I mean?
Critical thinker.
Yeah, because like people's brains are turning to mush with the lack of need to think. I think that was already happening. I think this is illustrating the fact that it's just happening faster. Because even a lot of people in these big organizations, like let's say even software developers, like a lot of them do hide within a team. There's usually like one or two people that's doing the thinking for everyone, right? So like, is this really atrophying the person who wasn't thinking to begin with? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people out there who um, will lose some of that, but yeah, I think I stand on the idea that like if you're listening and paying attention, you're learning that this isn't the way to use these tools. Um, but also, I think you've talked about a lot, like this idea of like being able to mess up too, because I think that's where I still use it. Is like either when I already mess up, like asking, "Hey, how could I not mess up like this?" But then also, uh, people are probably leaning on it before doing something that they might just need to just do, you know, and then learn the lesson from that.
That's great. Yeah, because theory is only useful when you have the emotion behind it to accept it. And typically that takes from a failure, like the pain of a failure to be like, you gotta touch the stove,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Totally. So another thing, right, to keep in mind throughout all of this American AI innovation is that there are other options as well.
Mhm.
In January 2025, there was a Chinese lab that is called DeepSeek that released a reasoning model that nearly matched the top US models at a fraction of the training cost. And that just the headline alone, because that had happened before, but the headline alone briefly wiped out hundreds of billions of US tech stocks in a single week. And if there is a competitor out there that can deliver most of the quality of what these American AI companies are doing for a fraction of the price, then the spending that assumes the world has no choice but to pay American prices can get a lot harder to properly defend. Um, and so, in general, some of this is showing up in your wallet. You've got the AI build out that runs on memory chips, and so does anything else with a chip in it. So you have Micron, SK Hynix, and Samsung that control roughly 90 to 95% of the world's memory supply, and they have been shifting factory capacity toward the type of memory that data centers need because it pays up to 10 times more per chip. And so DRAM prices rose as much as 98% in the first quarter of 2026 alone. And on June 25th of this year, Apple raised prices across nearly its entire Mac and iPad lineup mid cycle, something it has never done before, citing this shortage of DRAM directly. And Tim has called this a 100-year flood, Tim Cook. And the Apple stock has had its single worst day in over a year on that news that came out. So, just some things to keep in mind here about how these dynamics are shifting. Um, the whole open source and China AI model is one thing to keep in mind, and then just recognizing that some of this stuff is starting to actually impact real markets and real pockets today. So, another thing to definitely be thinking about. The next question people are asking is like, when does the bubble pop? And what we have down here is like bubbles don't necessarily burst just because a company missed its numbers, but instead because of the confidence in general around what's happening stops compounding on top of itself. Right? When everyone believes that the next buyer is going to pay more, then prices can climb on nothing but just that pure belief alone. But the moment that enough people start thinking that things are too expensive and decide to wait, then the flow of new money that's holding the price up will slow down, and the structure that depended on this infinite amount of new buyers coming in starts to run in reverse instead.
Mhm.
So we've seen a little bit of a preview of what this might look like with the Korean Kospi over the past couple of weeks, where they took a massive hit in their market. It's also down another 6% today, down 23% in the past month. Most of this being triggered by just a decline in the price of the semiconductor stocks over there. So, could that spill over into what we see in the US? Certainly wouldn't be something that's crazy to think about at the very minimum.
No, 100%. We've had some good stuff in the chat that I'll acknowledge. So Shally says, what if the AI subsidies stop? They start charging 10 times what they're charging right now. I'd personally ask, what do we even need this for? Yeah, I think a lot of people ask that question if they were paying the real price, especially because the thing we've discussed too is that you still pay the same price even when it's completely wrong, which that's a frustrating thing. I don't know what's DS more than other AIs. What's DS? DeepSeek. Got it. Okay. I haven't played around with that in a while. Would love to hear your experiences, Tim. And then Roman here, dystopian conspiratorial thought. They try to keep prices high to make personal AI hardware unattainable, and you rely on their cloud solutions. Yeah, I don't think that's conspiratorial at all. I think that's probably playing a bit of a role.
That's an interesting thought for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's wild because this is all like actually happening in terms of the gap that's happening in terms of people getting way wealthier. And this weird piece of like, what are you supposed to do in terms of like, do you try to buy these stocks? Do you wait? Do you, I don't know. It's just, it's not an easy answer for what to do as the everyday person in terms of what to do with your money, at least as an investor. But
there's so much going on. It's yeah, you're attempting to predict the unpredictable.
One of the other things that we had a clip about is the interconnectedness of all of these companies and how they basically fund each other through these deals. So let me play a clip about that.
Are OpenAI. The maker of this web of AI deals are OpenAI, the maker of the widely popular AI chatbot ChatGPT, and NVIDIA, a maker of GPUs used to power AI. Just this year, OpenAI alone has made around $1 trillion worth of AI deals. Let's take a closer look at some of these. In September, OpenAI confirmed that it would pay Oracle $300 billion for computer infrastructure over the course of 5 years. This deal is part of a $500 billion data center build-out project called Stargate, to which Japan's SoftBank Group is also contributing. OpenAI has also inked a $22 billion deal with CoreWeave for use of its data centers, which are packed with NVIDIA GPUs. OpenAI has another cloud deal with Google for an undisclosed amount. The company is also partnering with Broadcom to develop and deploy racks of OpenAI-designed chips. That deal amount is undisclosed. Part of the reason OpenAI is able to go on the shopping spree is because of a $100 billion infusion from NVIDIA, though a large portion of this investment will likely be used for leasing NVIDIA's GPUs. Microsoft has also invested about $14 billion in OpenAI since 2019. Recently, OpenAI has also announced a deal with AMD, where OpenAI agreed to purchase AMD chips in return for a stake in the chipmaker.
They're going to get to take up to a 10% stake in the company over time. So that's a pretty substantial equity investment for OpenAI.
NVIDIA has made a similar amount of intertwining deals. In addition to being a stakeholder in CoreWeave, NVIDIA has agreed to pay CoreWeave up to $6.3 billion for any of CoreWeave's unsold cloud computing capacity through 2032. CoreWeave gets most of its GPUs that it then rents out to customers from NVIDIA. Meanwhile, Oracle has purchased about $40 billion worth of NVIDIA chips to build a data center for OpenAI, which is part of the Stargate project. SoftBank has a $3 billion stake in NVIDIA. Other large tech players are also in the mix. In June, Meta invested $14 billion into data labeling company Scale AI. Meta has also paid $10 billion to Google for use of Google's cloud servers and $14 billion to CoreWeave for their AI cloud infrastructure.
It's a lot of money.
Mucho dinero. So, yeah, that's been something that's been talked about a lot at this point. Sort of the circular nature of the investing and the money that's going in and around, but wanted to make sure that we played that for the people who have broken it down fully. But yeah, I mean, anything else that you want to cover on this side of the discussion regarding the AI bubble?
No, did we cover everything in the doc?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think that if you want to hear more about this stuff, definitely go check out Ed's stuff. He's popping up all over YouTube. He's going on the show circuits, Ed Zitron. And Ed, if you ever see this, we'd obviously love to have you on the show to hear more about it. And that's the AI bubble.
Fantastic. With that being said, we've got some news.
We've got some news.
It's a news kind of day on a Thursday. Awesome. So first things first, we've had Trump with a $1 gold coin that has been unveiled. Let's check out the clip real quick. So, White House and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced a $1 gold commemorative coin featuring President Trump. The U.S. Mint will strike the coin to mark America's 250th anniversary of independence this year. And then the coin shows Trump's portrait on the front and the national symbols and 250 on the back as a patriotism symbol. And this is a part of semi-quincentennial celebrations honoring U.S. liberty and values. There's also apparently Trump-signed $100 bills in production. New $100 bills featuring President Trump's signature are being printed on presses. This video shows the process and whatnot. And I saw a clip from Ed Elson about some of this that I wanted to play because I thought that he broke this down pretty well.
Exciting news from the Treasury Department. The United States will start producing new $1 gold coins emblazoned with the face of President Donald Trump.
Just not sure how I feel about the music playing. So basically, what he does here is he says the leaders who've done things like this include Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, and Mao Zedong. And he basically makes the claim that if you're not acknowledging that these are people who serve as, very, what's the word for this, draconian sorts of roles in society, then you may have missed the plot. I'm trying to find a better word, but draconian, let's find you guys the definition here real quick. It is rules, laws, or punishments that are excessively harsh, severe, or cruel. So what I'm trying to illustrate is that intense levels of power imbalance. That's what I'm trying to use without using words that create issues for people. But so yeah, I just wanted to play that clip real quick, and then let's see what else we got. Apparently, Elon Musk came out and said that the X code base is going to fully open source. I see this from Polymarket, but I haven't seen that tweet, so I don't know where it was or whatever. But apparently, previously, this recommendation algorithm, only the recommendation algorithm has been public. And this move aims for full transparency on how the platform actually works. And this sparks debate on trust, security, and tech openness. Sorry.
You're muted.
Anything on that?
No, I'd be very curious to see how that whole thing goes. I've not really seen Nikita been talking about that all that much, but maybe I've just been not paying attention. But there's also apparently crypto Twitter is back to life because they solved the distribution algorithm and people are seeing people's tweets again from crypto Twitter. So we should
Interesting.
See. Yeah.
Interesting. Also seeing some reports that Elon Musk just bought a Jacksonville-based energy company with a deal valued at over $1 billion being completed quietly through an FTC filing. The company is called APR Energy, and they specialize in rapid deploy power for data centers and industry. So this move secures electricity for Elon Musk's AI projects and data centers.
Dang. It's going to make Jacksonville expensive.
Uh-oh. Yeah,
This
this
is
was
crazy.
interesting. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has announced that there will be mandatory annual testosterone screening for all U.S. troops aged 30 and above during their health checks. And low levels of testosterone will trigger voluntary testosterone replacement therapy under medical supervision. Hegseth calls this building the high T Department of War to optimize natural performance and lethality. Under 30 troops can opt in, and this sparks debates on fitness, hormones, and military readiness. So let's hear what he said here a little bit.
At the Department of War, we have the most elite warriors on the face of the earth. Every single day, you are pushed to your absolute physical and mental limits to master the profession of arms. We demand your all, and you give it. But while we invest heavily in our weapon systems, platforms, and gear, our most decisive tactical advantage will always be the individual warfighter. We have a sacred duty to maintain that advantage, which is why we must constantly look for new ways to optimize your performance, your resilience, and your long-term health. And to meet that commitment today, I'm authorizing a new screening program for testosterone deficiency for our service members, ensuring you have the right testosterone levels to operate at your absolute best.
Matthew said this dude seems like he was a high school football coach at one point.
It seems like a wild thing to initiate, but yeah.
I think it's a wild thing to publicize.
Yeah, that's
like
more.
Maybe you do that, but like, what? Like, why are you
Do they think this is going to be a sales pitch? Because TRTs become so popular, they're like, oh, I get to, if I join the military, I get free TRT.
Facts. That probably would be the best way to look at that.
Because peptides, hormone therapy, people are doing so much of that, man.
Yeah, it's even pretty much being pitched to the kids. Like,
oh, dude, that's a massive market. Right? We should do a whole episode on the
Facts.
peptide market because it's like become a new Ponzi scheme where people are just whipping up. Like my buddy actually messaged me, and he's always like, he's kind of a top signal for me typically. Where when he messages me, I'm like, oh, we're fucked. Like it was the same with marijuana stocks here in Canada. When that was going crazy, I'd invested in those a little bit. And then when he messaged me about it, I'm like, oh no, I better sell. But he messaged me about this. He's like, oh, like, would you, because of my job, I had seen peptides coming years ago. And I thought about like, can people build businesses in this? And I'm like, dude, you're taking on crazy amounts of liability.
Oh yeah.
Well, you're selling people things that they're going to inject into their body and you don't have ways of confirming what it is. I was like, buddy, I wouldn't touch that. But a lot of people are making a ton of money right now because a lot of these affiliates are what's driving their business. And I'm a big believer in affiliate marketing when it's done in an ethical way and you're selling a product that can't potentially destroy their health. But
Right.
it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, crazy thing from the marketing world, right, has been this whole peptides and TRT, all that kind of stuff. The thing that came to my head was Sam Sulek, right?
Mhm.
And how he's just like this
Openly on
massive
steroids.
figure for the kids. But like he's
Big
like
boss.
he's a drug addict. You know what I'm saying? Like in a way, like that's kind of like how I could look at that if I may.
Dude, steroids have become so normalized. It's crazy. It's almost if you go to the gym, it's an expectation.
Hmm.
And it's so crazy because I've grown up in the gym playing football and everything like that. And it's so funny that I know if someone's on something the second I see them, dude.
Wow.
It's always so obvious to tell. There's a
Like
few.
from their physicality?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like there's always
Okay.
their shoulders are almost always the dead giveaway.
Yeah, that's fair.
But how are you now? I was gonna say this too. Yeah, instead of solving the food and all the actual problems that is causing the hormone deficiency, they're like, let's just stab you. That's America.
Wow.
That's like put a Band-Aid over a wound, you know?
And create the issue first.
Yeah.
Totally. Yep. Super real. So yeah, it's definitely worth an entire episode because like my little brother, like
He's asking about it?
no, he just but he follows Sam Sulek, and I just thought about that. I'm like, okay, but you followed it. I don't know if he follows him, but like I know he knows who he is. You know what I'm saying? And like looks up to that in some way. And I'm like, okay, but like that dude's on roids though. So like, do you recognize that or what? You know?
It's tough because he does have a lot of positive messages, Sam does, in terms of like introspection, like being kind, working on something, being passionate about something, a lot of like very positive messages as well. But amidst that, he's like blasting steroids.
So yeah, I just like I haven't heard anyone really talking about that piece of
He went
him.
He went on Chris Williamson's show. I'm sure they addressed it there. Chris is pretty good about poking that stuff.
Word.
But I'd love to have Sam on the show at some point. That'd be super cool.
For sure. Oh my god, dude.
What's
All
that?
right. It's just, dude, X has a problem where it just plays videos, bro. Like, don't do that. Like, if I didn't click it, don't play it.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. So the US and UK have a crypto alignment that's been announced. They've announced a joint plan to support cross-border tokenized assets and crypto stablecoins, apparently, according to Watcher Guru. I think this is a pretty big deal for one major reason, which is that you have what the United Kingdom has been working on called the Regulated Liability Network. And this is a proposed financial market infrastructure built on DLT that allows central banks, commercial banks, and regulated non-banks to exchange, transfer, and settle tokenized sovereign currencies on a single shared ledger. So you can see Citigroup that has an entire white paper from 2022 on the Regulated Liability Network. And like, yeah, this is super, super fascinating. Central bank money, commercial bank money, e-money issued by regulated non-banks make up the family of sovereign money as defined in the paper. So the Regulated Liability Network is like the conglomeration of like everything being on chain, essentially. Imagine that, but having a rules-based system for how that's actually implemented and whatnot.
What?
So that's what that looks like in the United Kingdom alone. But if the US and the United Kingdom are sharing with each other, then like this regulated liability network would be a concept that potentially could be duplicated to the United States as well. And there could be a standard even that's kind of created out of what does it look like to have, for instance, the stocks that are in the United Kingdom tradable with stocks that are listed on the NYSE, right? As an example, I always think about the equities example because it's the most like clear, obvious thing where there is no interoperability. The New York Stock Exchange doesn't talk to whatever the major stock exchanges in London, the London Stock Exchange. But what if they could, with blockchain, you could absolutely have things like that happening. And then that goes for the actual money itself, the central bank money, right down to the literal creation of the money itself. Could you have one network like the Finternet, which the Bank for International Settlements has put out, right? So that's like that to the global level, being able to have one network where all money exists because there's a rules-based system through which all of that money exists on that network. And those of you who follow my stuff super closely, like, you know that there's solutions that like make that possible, right? And what it essentially looks like is an operating system that communicates from traditional systems over to distributed ledger technology systems. And so then you have the rules that you've written in one side, and you basically overlay those rules on top of any blockchain inside of this network that you now have. So that if you're going to use this for central bank currencies and have cross-border central bank currencies, you got all these projects that the Bank for International Settlements has done. If you can use this network, if you can, you can now have, for instance, like clawbacks on a permanent digital ledger transaction because you've got an overlaying system that all of this actually exists within. So anyways, I'll move on.
Yeah. Keep us up to date with anything that you see on that front. Some funny comments. Not a fair trade. LOL. Ain't nobody wants Euro stocks.
Yeah, it's super fair, man. Next piece here is that Warren Buffett apparently has cut off donations to the Gates Foundation following revelations about Bill Gates' interactions with Jeffrey Epstein. So Buffett has given over $47 billion in Berkshire stock to the foundation since 2006. $47 billion. Oh my goodness. And these funds redirected to the Buffett Family Foundations now. Gates and Buffett were longtime philanthropic partners, and this is sparking debate over elite ties, accountability, and shifting billionaire philanthropy. Any initial thoughts on that one?
Is that recent, this decision? Because I feel like that news came out a while ago, no?
Yeah, I don't know that it's that recent, right? And I feel like it would take time for it, if it were made during that time, right, for it to be relevant, right? Because he's not probably donating every day. It might be like, at this point, he didn't donate again, and then the question asked, you know what I'm saying, or whatever.
Yeah, of all the really rich dudes, I feel like him and Munger have been pretty void of controversy.
I was totally thinking about that. I'm like, Warren Buffett's been clean, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think how he made his money investing into like long-term buy and holds type stuff, right? Like it's kind of like why Dave Ramsey does a lot of what other people get called scammers for, but because what he's doing it around, he doesn't get that heat. Right? Like if you make a course about how to make money, you're a scammer. But if you make a course about how to save money, you're not.
Interesting.
That's what the market has shown.
Interesting. Like you're saying, I mean, because he didn't make a course, though. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
what
he
do you
does.
mean?
He's
Warren Buffett?
No, I'm talking about Ramsey.
Right. But I'm talking about, but you're saying Warren Buffett doesn't get the scrutiny, though, right?
I'm saying similar to that, like Ramsey doesn't get the scrutiny because of how he did it.
Oh, Ramsey doesn't get the scrutiny, you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't as much as other people. So, but why? Wait, so why are you saying that he doesn't? Because it's save money, not make money.
Because same. Buffett, buy, hold. This, spend less than you make, right? Like you can't really argue it.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Like it still does take you doing it, but for whatever reason, because it's so black and white, you don't get shit on. Whereas if you say like invest in this, you're a scammer. If you say how to make money course, you're a scammer.
Word. And then what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so like, does Warren Buffett fall into like the evil billionaire category?
I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people would just think anybody who has that much money is inherently evil. But I don't. Yeah.
Which is just such a because he's the perfect example to ask that question to, because of also like how he did it. Like he just bought companies. Like he's evil for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Like
it does seem like
very
he's
interesting.
Been outside of that evil elite circle. It seems like he's done a pretty good job of keeping that separate and just hanging out with Munger and eating his McDonald's and chilling.
Bro, let's just hang out with each other, man. Oh man. All right. Next piece. BlackRock reaches $15 trillion assets under management. Apparently, it's the first firm to ever manage over $15 trillion in assets. Hit that record in Q2 2026 on strong ETF and equity inflows. The world's largest asset manager added $192 billion net new money in that quarter. And this milestone underscores its outsized role in global markets and investing.
BlackRock's crazy.
Crazy. Now they're selling Bitcoin, adding that to the repertoire.
Of course they are. They can't not touch anything that is a potential threat, right? Like they gotta own it.
Most def. Next piece. Oh yeah, the DTCC, tokenized assets milestone using Chainlink. So the DTC did just process their first ever live tokenized asset trades using DTC custody securities on July 15th, yesterday. Chainlink technology is integrated for collateral pricing and workflows in DTCC's app chain, where no Ripple or XRP was used. And this is a major milestone for institutional tokenization ahead of the DTCC service launch. So, Fishy Catfish, what up? He says no XRP, no XRPL, no Ripple, not even Ripple Prime. Okay.
Right on cue. It's like Abs knew you were talking about Ripple.
What is he in here? Oh, that's awesome. What up, Abs? What do you think about Catfish Fishy coming out and talking crap about XRP all the time? Would love to hear your thoughts. So he said Chainlink's platform is integrated into DTCC's collateral app chain to enable a seamless pairing of asset prices, valuations, and collateral movement with the aim of overhauling how market risk is managed globally. DTCC built their workflows for their collateral app chain's advanced eligibility, valuation, margining, collateral optimization, settlement, and related post-trade processes using Chainlink's runtime environment platform. Now, so I do think it's worth noting. Let me see real quick. Yeah, so Chainlink is in the list of the different organizations that the DTCC has partnered up with in some of this working that they're doing. I'm trying to think though, like, I'm pretty sure he's potentially cherry-picked this a little bit, but I'm not gonna be able to call him on it right now. But anyways, so this is what just happened. They just successfully actually did this. They were talking about this for a few months. This is the beginning of their tokenization efforts. Apparently, let's see. Yeah, so this is a major milestone for digital markets ahead of the DTCC tokenization service launch later this year. So they're going to have like the full launch in October. So, but this is them starting that process. Super fascinating to see that happening. Anything you want to say on that?
No, I think that should be more and more of stories like this. And Link is progressively more and more seeming in the news. The Link Marines, I saw a shout out to that in the chat. Link Marines. They're going to keep getting louder and louder, I'm sure.
Yeah, massive shout out to the Link Marines. I mean, what Chainlink is doing is undeniable. A lot of people are upset about the token price. And I mean, to be fair, it's been super lackluster. But I don't know if it's really a bad thing. I mean, if you really believe in what they're trying to accomplish and that at some point it will accrue value, then hey, more time. I remember Luca talking about Chainlink and Luca Nets, for people who don't know who I'm just Luca. And he's a extremely successful entrepreneur, marketing guy, branding guy, also the founder of Pudgy Penguins for the crypto people in the room. But I know him as that last. But he, when he started talking about Chainlink, I was like, oh, this guy actually knows about what's happening in Web3. And that was well before the Pudgy Penguins situation. So I brought that up because I have no idea actually why, but basically this is something that's now starting to get to where everyone in crypto should understand at least what Chainlink is doing. If you don't, then you really should.
We've done a whole episode on it.
Yes. Yeah, we did a whole episode on it. Check that episode out at the very minimum. And get hip, because the way that I look at it, and I've seen Sergey actually say something very similar. It's the third iteration of blockchain technology. And I mean, it just is. Like when you think about Bitcoin, all right, this is a public permissionless blockchain. Fantastic. First money network that can't be stopped, where anyone can send money using just the internet itself. Okay, great. The next piece of that is, how do you get extra functionality on top of that? Okay, you have something like Ethereum and smart contracts. Great. Now you have programmability on top of this unstoppable money network. Okay, then the next piece becomes, all right, but how do I make sure that these smart contracts actually are smart, that they actually have data and access to information that is outside of the blockchain itself? Okay, cool, you have an Oracle solution. And that is potentially, even to me, like one of the most valuable pieces of anything that has been prior to it, because this allows you to also monetize all of the data that already exists, right? And so anyways, that's my rant about Chainlink.
I think it's great. However, now said, but Link is an altcoin. So yeah, Bitcoin maxis, I guess, would not agree with that, or the future trajectory of Link. But I think a lot of people that support other crypto projects. They don't really pay attention to anything unless the price is seriously moving. So I think there's so many people that will only become interested in what's being done when the price moves.
Right. And with Link, man, it's going to be fascinating because it's one of those things where
How much is value?
well, it can happen so fast. Like, because it won't require the everyday person to understand it, is why.
Mm.
It just requires institutional demand for it, you know. So yeah. So what I mean by that is like you can say the same thing for like XRP if it were ever to be used. Like it doesn't require you and I to care or know or understand. It just requires that all the banks in the world do.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they make that decision, like bam, it's done.
It's over.
But same thing for Chainlink. Anyways,
sir.
So we talked a little bit about the thing that happened in South Korea where there was a massive slide in the stock market. Well, that actually led to a real world event where apparently a YouTuber got stabbed. So a man in his 20s stabbed a popular investment YouTuber in his 40s inside a Busan building in South Korea.
Wasn't this a plot of like a Black Mirror episode?
Maybe. The attacker lost big money following the creator's stock tips on Winners TV, and the victim suffered multiple stab wounds, but is stable and is not in life-threatening condition. The suspect was arrested on attempted murder charges, and the incident was caught on CCTV. That's kind of wild. This highlights the risk of blindly following online investment advice. Says
it's not never financial advice. I think it's Squid Game that it was. I think one of the characters was a YouTuber who gave financial advice, and the person was broke because he took those calls.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't see that. So, geez. Yeah, guys, none of this is ever financial advice. Do not take any advice from us, and recognize that bad things can happen. We've got some funny stuff to talk about with that a little bit later too. A figure who's well known for making calls and offering actual products to people that didn't do well too.
Totally. Should we jump into the memes?
Yeah.
And reactions?
Yeah, it's time for the memes.
You're muted, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Vance, JD Vance, accusing also Israel of sabotaging the Iran peace deal on the Joe Rogan episode.
Experience. The Peter Thiel experience.
There you go. Let's give it a listen.
I definitely think you have seen this very discreet, extremely well-funded campaign to try to derail the negotiation and try to derail the deal. And, you know, there's this Time article that came out yesterday. A friend sent it to me. It's like worth reading because it lists a bunch of people who have quite literally been paid by a former Trump campaign person who was himself paid by certain elements within the Israeli government. And those people are attacking me viciously for quite literally trying to accomplish the negotiation objective that the president set for the country.
What is their position? Like, they're attacking you how?
Oh, it's social media posts. It's, you know, they're leaking to reporters. They're attacking me obsessively, saying that we should not be negotiating with Iran. We should just keep the military campaign going indefinitely. And that is their explicit position. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there have been people within the Israeli government who are trying to like actually shift us away from that policy because they want to continue the military campaign. And by the way, like there are people within their government that I love, I have good relationships with. I hope, and I don't think that they're part of this. I mean, you know, the ambassador of Israel to the United States, I think is actually a really good guy. Obviously, he cares about Israel first. I care about America first. But there are some people within their system we know beyond a shadow of a doubt who are manipulating and trying to change American public opinion to keep the war going on indefinitely. Again, not towards any objective, but just indefinitely.
Keith?
Interesting, man. I don't even know, man. I'm checked out on the Iran war, man.
Why are you checked out?
It just is a bunch of propaganda left and right. And so it's just like, I don't even want to hear it.
Yeah, it does seem Yeah, I'm sure a lot of this has to do with trying to salvage JD's viewpoint as a candidate for potentially the future, right? But yeah, man, there's a new story out every day that it's over a peace deal. What was the thing they signed? What kind of bullshit name was that again? Memorandum of peace or something like that?
Memorandum of understanding, an
Oh
MOU.
yeah. God, what a little horse shit. But yeah, what do you got next for me?
Next piece, we've got Rogan also talking about Epstein on the show. This was breaking the internet. Let's hear what he had to say exactly.
Meet him.
Really?
Yeah. I had one of my guests try to get me to meet him.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
2017.
See, that's crazy to me because at that point he'd already gone down for at least one like sex abuse thing.
That was my position. I'll show you the emails.
Okay.
They're kind of funny.
Which
I
guest?
actually read them on stage.
Okay, you want to say? Okay, fine.
People can find it.
Yeah.
I don't want to have the guy's already ruined.
Sure. But
dude,
it's
I Googled it and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I had,
and that was probably a good decision.
Yeah. Just imagine Jeffrey Epstein Rogan episode.
Dude, if he's not actually dead, maybe that happens. But it's just, yeah, I've always wondered where all these people, especially that's the big thing that JD mentioned there, was the fact that if there's already Googleable things that took place and he's associated with those kinds of things, I think any excuse for why you were hanging out with them kind of goes out the window.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe if you're a nobody or like someone, yeah, like there's just no way you can even associate with it.
Yeah, it's a big name, like what you're saying, like because you'd have stuff to lose at that point. Like you should be looking into who you're hanging out with.
Yeah, and that's a wild thing too, because it's just like I know. Yeah, I'm just trying to I'm always putting myself in those shoes every time I hear about these people that have like been around them. Because I'm just like, what are the scenarios in which that can still happen? Or could it happen? Because some of these people didn't know, like,
yeah,
for sure.
I'm sure some,
you know what I mean?
For sure.
So, like, am I Google searching everyone who I hang out with's name? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If there's one-on-one stuff, I think you definitely should. If it's group, of course, that's not going to happen where you're going to Google everyone there. And that's why some people, I'm sure, are caught in the crossfires of being in places that were just unfortunate where he happened to be there too.
Right.
But yeah, RD says, Joe doesn't ask any serious questions or have any serious pushback. It's no fun to watch. I think it's the issue is that he's friends with a lot of these people or friends of friends. And so now, because I do think that he's a fairly empathetic individual. And so he knows the consequences of really pushing someone in terms of how it gets clipped up. So the stakes are almost too high for him. It sucks that that's the case, but I'm sure that's either consciously or subconsciously driving that lack of pushback. And so, yeah, Lucas says he's been compromised. I think it might just be being a human, right? Like being a part of it is just being an empathetic individual where like either, and they may have taken advantage of him to become friends with him, but regardless, they're friends now, right? Elon, Teal, all these guys, right? And when you spend time with someone, you want to see the best in them. And he spent a lot of time with these guys now.
I guess the only alternative is for him to just not have them on the show,
Yeah. If you're not going to push them, why have them on?
Yeah. But
I hear you.
Yeah, and it's because it's not like we've talked about for us, for instance, where it's like we're trying to like meet the people and like build a relationship, not these people, but just like people in general, right? Where if there's pushback that needs to be had, we'll come back to it. You know what I'm saying? When we get the chance. But like Joe Rogan, like he's Joe Rogan. Like he has all the leverage, all the power, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like being able to propagate someone's message or their character. Like if you want to defend your character, like that's the place to do it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's also a funny thing that people think that every podcast has the leverage that Joe has. Right? Like, it's on your show. Like, why didn't you attack him? Or why didn't you push back? Like, bro, we're not Joe Rogan. Right? So I think that you have to, like you said, build the relationship the first time you have someone on the show and then set the expectation that, okay, like come back on, but we're going to push you a bit kind of deal too. And I think Joe's thing is, it's tough. Like that, he does have a high stakes job.
Yeah, for sure. like I would hate having to get to the point to where it's like you have to do politics, basically. You know what I mean?
Oh, when you're that big, you totally have to. Yeah, and if he doesn't have Simon Dixon on, I'm curious. Like, I wonder what that says about everything because I went back and watched the Antonopoulos ones.
Oh yeah, dude.
I watched all three, or there's 2 or 3, and Joe was like highly curious.
Fascinating.
And that seems to have completely dissipated.
Hmm.
So it's like, I don't know, man. All this shit's weird. And it's almost like he's a smart dude, man. Say what you want. No, a lot of people call him dumb, and really, why they call him dumb is because it's usually someone who's like a narrow subject matter expert, expecting Joe to be that level of understanding or acumen. You know what I'm saying? Like, like how he doesn't know this. Like, well, yeah, he didn't go to school for that for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? But he's definitely not dumb, man. And so for him to have learned about Bitcoin and things of that nature, and then just to randomly like act like he doesn't care or know anything, it's a little strange to me.
Yep. Next piece I've got CZ on AI versus Bitcoin. He says AI is great, but it does not protect you against inflation. Bitcoin does. Yeah. What do you think of that?
CZ is a super interesting guy as well. AI is great, but does not protect you against inflation. Bitcoin does. I guess it depends who you are. For like the general retail consumer, probably. But even that, I think there's a lot of assumptions in there. How about you?
Yeah, I mean it's cool, fun take. But
good content, tweets.
Yeah, it's a good soundbite. But I don't know if it's really something to look at. And I definitely wouldn't look at AI as an inflation hedge. I think it'd be like an inflation. Yeah, I don't know. Actually. I'm gonna move on. Sylvester Stallone. Okay, I'm kind of confused here. Rocky, a biopic trailer. So Benny Johnson, who's a political commentator, posted a trailer for I Play Rocky, which is a film about young Sylvester Stallone creating and starring in the 1976 movie Rocky. So Anthony Ippolito stars as Stallone in the upcoming November 2026 biopic, which is directed by Peter Farrelly. Viewers are excited by the classic American underdog story behind the iconic boxing film. Okay, so it's like a story of Rocky or Sylvester Stallone playing Rocky.
Name. I'm Mike.
This one might get trademarked.
Yeah, so I'll cover the next up there, but that's the idea. Cool. So the demographic decline in AI solutions. So Raoul Pal, popular macro investor commentator.
Popular.
Yeah, popular, and in this moment infamous for some of his calls.
When things turn around, I'm excited to see his response.
Yeah, he'll be loud. So he's warning that humanity is running out of people. He says that shrinking workforce is limiting GDP growth and strains debt. He says the only fix is the rapid rollout of robots and AI for productivity. He uses a 2023 interview clip to highlight the exponential age necessity, and this draws attention as global fertility rates keep falling. So let's hear what Mr. Raoul Pal had to say about this. Oh, I didn't have you on my screen. That's that, and then here we are.
We've got the shrinking population that's not going to change. In fact, the global population peaks out in 2100, I think, and the world will shrink. All the Western world is shrinking. And that seems great, less competition for resources. And you hear Elon saying this thing, which is like, the biggest problem humanity faces is less people. First order thinking is, well, why is that a problem? Because we have more resources. Second order thinking is, oh, well, GDP is driven by demographic growth. So GDP growth is slow. Third order thinking is the way you deal with a shrinking global population is robots and AI. So remember we talked about these unintended consequences of ways out? The unintended consequence of all of this is it accelerates the use of AI because we've got this productivity need, right, that we talked about. So this is why he wants to go to Mars. It's driven by having another way out for humanity. And it sounds ludicrous, but if you follow the chain of thought, it's dead right. A collapse in population growth in an indebted world leads to a need for productivity. So that means that governments get behind productivity that we're seeing, and that leads to an acceleration in technology. If you've got less people, you replace them with robots and AI. Problem is robots and AI are exponential in their knowledge scaling, and before you know it, you've killed humanity, in which case you need to go somewhere else.
So instead of fixing the underlying problems and structures that create these issues, we go to Mars.
That's what it sounds like.
That's crazy. Because even like that order of thinking is assuming you can't solve the underlying issue that made that kind of problem take place in the first place.
Right.
The psyops are so successful, right? Like, so even like these leaders, there's so many times when they talk about things where it's like a foregone conclusion, like these things can't change. Your thoughts?
I think that's a great observation there. But I don't know. I don't have too much else on it. So, yeah. The next piece.
Someone's asking about closed captions. We can't add closed captions on in live. It's not possible because it takes the transcripts to give them. So like in real time, we can't have closed captions unless they add that as a feature.
Word.
Like for when we're talking, I'm saying. When it's done and it's fully uploaded, then you can turn on that CC button.
Cool. So this next piece here is XAI Grok build privacy controversy. So there's a security researcher that claims that XAI's Grok secretly uploads user code bases to cloud despite zero tool calls. So Sam Altman quotes the accusation and calls it concerning. XAI previously stated zero data retention options to protect privacy, and this sparks debate on AI tool transparency and data security for developers. So Hari here said SpaceX AI was caught uploading your code to its cloud. I reversed XAI's official Grok build binary in a controlled session with zero tool calls. It uploaded the complete code base to XAI storage. It ships a malware like background code collector. So that got 3.5 million views, mostly off of Sam Altman's saying that this was concerning. And all of that was in response to SpaceX AI making a statement saying that they care deeply about privacy and respect customer choice, and saying that they have zero data retention. So, any initial thoughts there, Ben?
No, I think that choice, privacy, security, they all seem like afterthoughts for a lot of these people because they're not incentivized financially or penalized if they don't, right? Like the incentive structures are just so out of whack where there's too much power had because we're operating in a rule structure that was just not created for the current forces, right? That's the issue. Is so many of the rules, like I know in your system for governance, it should be hard to change rules, but I think it might be too hard and too slow because of how fast tech moves now. Right, because there's so many things that are now technically feasible that could be intrusions that you couldn't even have thought about like 50 years ago.
Super real. This next piece is Jed McCaleb having his critique for Bitcoin. So for those of you who don't know Jed McCaleb, he is the founder of Mt. Gox, which is like one of the largest OG Bitcoin exchanges. It went down, basically got hacked, and a bunch of people lost all their Bitcoin and stuff. What up?
Welcome, welcome.
Cito, welcome. And also a co-founder of Ripple. So he's a co-founder of the XRP ledger in Ripple.
Crazy.
Rather. So yeah, so if you didn't know that, he's also one of the
I didn't know that.
core people there. Yeah. And he's also the Stellar creator. He created Stellar because he didn't like what was happening at Ripple.
Got it.
So anyways, he had some choice words about Bitcoin. So let's hear what he had to say real quick.
Is Bitcoin winning right now on the global stage?
Winning. I mean, it definitely has a place that's secured. I mean, definitely more than when it started, obviously, right? I don't think it's probably not going to become the global currency. I think it just doesn't really have the number of transactions you need for that, but I don't see it going away.
Is Bitcoin winning?
I think that's a fair take.
I think that's exactly where I sit. But yeah. What's up? Camera going?
About to. But yeah, so that idea that like Bitcoin would be a currency, I think is the major thing that is almost irrefutable at this point. It's not a currency, right? It's like a currency has to move. You know what I mean? Currency is current.
But they're gonna build it in layers.
It still doesn't make sense to move it. That's the one thing that I still one of the things that I still can't get around is like, why would I ever spend my Bitcoin? Why would I ever spend it if it's supposed to only go up?
I think, yeah, I guess that's what Jeff's whole thing is that you'll have to be that much more valuable to convince you to pay for this now. But then it's like, just all consumption just stops. Like, I don't know. It's tough thing to. That's a difficult thought experiment.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and watch Jeff Boots. I do feel like we talked about that at some point.
Yeah, we'll have him on again too in the near future.
Yep. Next piece here, Polygon with an AI build sprint. So Sandeep Nailwal, the Polygon CEO, had 1/3 of the team pause work for 3 days. They built AI projects with $15,000 incentives, delivering 13 working products. 6 projects went live. 1 now settles real transactions across 5 different chains. And this highlights rapid AI integration in crypto teams for future payments innovation. Interesting. Anything on that, Ben?
Polygon is what Polymarket is built on, correct?
Which is an L2 on Ethereum.
Yes.
Correct. Yep. Cool. European media fear on Bitcoin. Let's see. So Julian Lineker, the Rely CEO, says traditional European media avoids explaining Bitcoin. Media uses fear narratives to keep people on the euro. High inflation and 50% taxes are crushing Europe's middle class. Man, that's so real. And then the everyday European 40 to 80s buy Bitcoin for financial protection. Let's hear him say what he said here.
US is much different in the US. Definitely now, I think with the new administration, it must be. But the traditional media in Europe is definitely still very skewed towards no, Bitcoin is too volatile. It's used by criminals. It used so much energy spoiling the ocean, and all these narratives. You really literally now the latest one is the quantum computing one. Like the traditional media really finds all these excuses basically not to explain people why not to use Bitcoin. And it's, I think, must have to do as well with that they want to push the narrative of they want to keep the people on the euro. Mm-hmm. And the euro, of course, has a high inflation rate. Everything is super expensive. Also, the tax. Most EU countries take like up to 50% income tax, and then there's unrealized gain tax and capital gain tax, wealth tax. Now, there's so much tax and so much inflation, so it's getting harder and harder to keep people away from the alternative, right, which is Bitcoin, which makes just total sense for people who have understood it. But those who have not yet understood it, they still follow the traditional media. For them, they really try to push this narrative. So yes, I think definitely the adoption, the organic adoption that would be there is being stopped by the EU and hence the media which they use as an instrument. But also,
I feel like that's most countries, and I still say to a degree that even happens within the States too. Depends
Which
on
piece?
The narrative that gets pushed around Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, it may have changed on a few select venues, a few select media sources, but I'd still say that's the overwhelming majority of how it gets presented to people. Definitely, and I would say Europe and Canada are like the same thing, man. In terms of like the problems that happen there and the media environment, like they got the BBC, we've got the CBC. We are a resource colony, as Professor Jang articulately illustrates, for them. And so the same thing happens here. When you really run the numbers, like the cost of stuff here is so absurd, and it's just so funny how people don't question things themselves or do their own research, even as the sky is falling. Like everything's so expensive, you're getting taxed that much, the cost of everything goes up that much. It's insane.
Yeah, I just remember my first time spending extended periods of time in Europe and like talking to people last 2 years ago rather, and like it was just so interesting because this was another time where I was like questioning or thinking about the structure of how things work, and it's like I'm like, you guys like you could pay like really high taxes, like that must kind of suck, right? They're like, mate, you have to pay for healthcare. And I was like, that's a good point.
That's a great argument until it spills over, though, right? Like we're at the point now in Canada where, yeah, you don't have to pay for healthcare, but navigating the system is quite difficult. And then also those incentive structures leads to a lot of your best talent leaving too. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I think there should be like a hybrid model. Like I do think that a lot of healthcare should be dealt with through taxes, but I think you need to maintain some sort of like competitive innovation push. It's not to say that you guys have that because your whole healthcare system has been co-opted, but yeah.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone here in Brazil. He's studying to be a doctor, and somehow it came up to where I was like, oh, like go to this, you could go to the States and be a doctor. And he was like, yeah, like I don't know if I'd want to be a doctor in the States. Like, I don't know if I would like care about, like, I don't know if I could be as passionate about my job, right? Knowing that I'm like basically, like exploiting people, for their health.
Yeah, it is kind of messed up.
I was like, dang, that's a pretty interesting thought. But anyways, yeah. Yeah, I mean, healthcare in the United States is totally screwed in a lot of ways, both in terms of also because of the incentives of the privatization, like you also push people to do things that they're not supposed to do or don't need to do.
Yeah, everything's broken, man. Like every system you look at, food, drugs, pharma, healthcare, like everything is broken. But like we say, it's all downstream of money. It's just systems that get stacked upon the foundational layer.
Speaking on that, Dana White.
Tim's not understanding here, man. So it doesn't cost us money, just we're live. So it can't do the CC until it has the transcript. And to do that, when it uploads, you can come back and click the CC button. So it's not a cost thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Dana White talks about joining the Meta board in 2025 to advise on AI and tech strategy. Totally need Dana White for that.
That's crazy.
Great reason to put him on your board. And apparently on his podcast, he called Mark Zuckerberg an effing gangster. Let's hear some of the context around this conversation here.
So Meta AI, I'm on the board for Meta. I just got back from a Meta board meeting. Zuckerberg, who is a brilliant gangster, this guy is a gangster. These people who try to talk about him and everything else. I'm so blown away and impressed by this guy. He's an animal. And putting all the chips in on AI. We just hired like 10 kids that are aged 22 to 28. The average salary is like $65 million that these kids are making that are coming and working on AI. But AI, you hear a lot of negativity about AI. There's way more positives about AI than negative. So Meta
AI. Any initial reactions to that, Ben?
He's a character, man. It's insane how who was I talking about this the other day, where it's like the UFC, and for him to become what it became, I think it's very funny to think about how like truly vicious the UFC is, and so how that was able to rise to mainstream relevance is pretty wild, because the timing of everything worked out so well for them. It was very fortunate that Rogan was a massive MMA fan. Like that connection, the
Yeah.
McGregor story, like a lot of things really had to go right for the UFC and Dana to become as relevant as they've become. And then COVID was like the final cherry on top because everything else shut down and they were still doing these events. And so a lot of people became fight fans that never would have before. So yeah, Dana's an interesting cat. He's definitely motivated by money, obviously. Yeah, a salesman, as someone said in the chat. And that's why like they run through a lot of, he's definitely a big personality, but yeah, there's a lot of issues with like fighter pay, things of that nature. Did you see the McGregor stuff that happened over the last weekend or two?
I really didn't. I didn't. Like I saw he hurt his knee.
Yeah, it was a
something like that.
weird thing. Yeah, and then there were so many bets placed on that whole thing, and it was done within 10 to 15, maybe 30 seconds.
Oh, really?
Dude, it was weird.
I didn't
Yeah.
even watch it. I didn't see that part.
It was very strange. And then even when you watch the replay, there's this guy that I've been watching on YouTube who like he's what's his name? It's like something the awake. And he's just this guy who's like everything's fake. And he like he's like this McGregor stuff was planned. And when it's in slow motion, it does look a lot more like WWE than UFC. Because when Max is over top of him punching him, he like misses him twice. I don't know. It is a very weird thing, but it was a strange thing. And yeah, it feels like the UFC's popularity has kind of topped as well. If they don't get some new characters in there, I think that'll start to drop.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't realize. Like, I don't see how that didn't come across my feed that the fight was over that fast. But anyways, yeah, definitely a character, that guy, and it's super interesting. I wonder what the actual rationale is on him being on the board. Like, I guess him being in media, I guess is the thing. Like people's perception of it all. But I'd love to hear that articulated.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I think this is a fair point. I'm a fan of the sport, but not a fan of the UFC as an organization. Yeah, they're a near monopoly. And then More Monkey Business says, Ben, somewhere along the line, you're paying for the healthcare. Yeah, through your taxes. I think we're in alignment there. I understand
For
that.
sure, for sure. Yep. All right, let's see here. The Hinge founder apparently launched an AI dating app. Justin McLeod, the ex-CEO of Hinge, announced Overtone, an AI matchmaking app. The app skips profiles and swiping. AI alone decides compatible pairs, inspired by a Black Mirror episode, Hang the DJ, where algorithms assign relationships. Backed by $18 million, and Match Group sparks debate on AI in romance.
That'll be funny to see how people react to that. The comments and replies were also hilarious too. It was one of the funniest comments was like, I don't think girls are going to like this when they see what they actually get paired with.
Murray Hill guy said, a lot of women are going to be insanely disappointed when they are matched with their actual looks match. Oops. Claude, find me a toxic relationship with an evil twink or goth fatty. Make no mistakes. That's crazy. There's actually something super interesting about all of this to me, because like how much of what people say they want is what they actually want. And then like how much of what people say they want does the other person like match with that? Like, so the girl wants 6-foot guy, for instance, but does the guy want the girl that wants the 6-foot guy?
No, that's the whole issue.
But literally, like psychographically too. Like, does the person who wants that person, not because she's whatever, but like from just the mindset alone, does the guy maybe not want a girl who wants him for that?
Totally. I think that's the issue, because even in, like, let's say everyone's dating the top 5 to 10% of guys, naturally, if the girls know that the only reason you're dating me is because I'm in the top 5 or 10% guys, you have to make that decision. Like, do you want someone who wants you for that? So it's a very complex issue.
Right. Next piece before we go down that rabbit hole. Larry Fink turns bullish on crypto. The BlackRock CEO, Larry Fink, spoke on CNBC about Bitcoin and crypto markets. Let's see what he had to say.
There is no question, as I said it in earlier times that I was here, I was always worried about the leverage in Bitcoin and crypto. There was too much leverage players in it. That's why we had the washout, and I think there's more stability at these levels here. But no, we don't see that much implicit leverage. For the scale of the capital markets today, the leverage is not as large. I mean, that doesn't mean there's not pockets. But no, I, as I said in my prepared remarks this morning, I'm very bullish on the markets over the next 12 months. I think the technological revolution is going to power better margins for more companies. I mean, think about BlackRock. We've raised our margins increased by 260 basis points over the last 12 months. A lot of it is using more and more technology.
Bullish on the Bitcoin.
Bullish on the Bitcoin. And BAPN says, why is this a discussion? Guys are weird now. I don't know what that's referring to. And yet, Tim, we can't add closed captions until after. It's not an option. Okay. Look, to prove this to you, I went and found a massive live stream. There's 6,000 people in this live stream right now, and you cannot turn on the captions because while it is live, you cannot currently, with the technological limitations, have closed captions while you are live. Once it is done and fully uploaded, like if you go to our last episode, you can turn them on. So we appreciate your enthusiasm and your desire to help, but there's nothing to help. I'm sure, like I think it was it who said that? I think it was Matthew said someone said that it will probably be added in the future.
Yeah, when AI gets there, that's when it'll be there.
Yes.
So let's see here. Yeah, so Larry Fink going bullish on crypto. He's selling it now, so you kind of can't really take too much of his word for anything anyways, to be honest. But next piece is we have an AI echo chamber critique. So Bitcoin cypherpunks Eric Kaysen and Jesse Posner discuss AI industry psychosis. They say developers believe they're building godlike super intelligence. Let's hear them talk
This is stuff we talk about all the time.
Jesse and I have like a relatively mild ongoing case of AI psychosis, as does everyone.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah. And like, now imagine you're like inside Anthropic and like you're all shoveling this shit in every single day and like you're feeding each other and all the same stuff. It's like these people have to be completely unhinged at this point in time. And like, not only have I heard rumors that like they literally believe they're building a god.
Yeah.
Like there's an actual belief that like they're building a superhuman thing, which is a dangerous thing in itself. But furthermore, they're inside of this very powerful echo chamber that's like making them millionaires. So like at what point can you stop and be like, guys, like, do you think maybe maybe the sycophantery thing's getting to us at all? No, we're clearly brilliant. Why else would we be making millions of dollars and kind of making huge changes throughout industry? Jesse and I have like a relatively mild ongoing case of AI psychosis, as does everyone.
Me too, yeah.
That's what I agree with completely. I think that the stories that will come out after this thing pops and blows up will be crazy. I bet you the documentaries that will be done will be truly insane. But right now, like they're saying, there's too much money and too much status being created to keep it going. And also with how hard these people are working, they're probably only ever really talking to their coworkers.
No doubt about that piece. I can't imagine. Like they're in dungeons, bro.
Yeah, so they're not even in the real world. They're in the cult.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so we talked about Ed early in the show. We'd love to have him on. We covered a few of his clips. So yeah, 100%.
Next piece, Warren Buffett, talking about gambling. He was on CNBC Markets Now, saying that people prioritize gambling over value investing. Let's hear what he had to say.
There are times when opportunities are just thrown at you so fast you can't, it's unbelievable. And then there's other times when you're very, very lucky if you find one thing in a couple of years. And it should always be that the latter is what prevails. But since humans love to gamble so much, there's more money in in actually cultivating gamblers than there are cultivating investors. There are times when opportunities are just.
Yeah, I think we see that everywhere. Everything's become gambling.
Totally. It's happening to where literally the gambling showing up in your investing apps. I would love to hear Warren Buffett talk about that before he leaves this man, because I'm not gonna lie, he looks like he's, not doing as great after his retirement.
Yeah, well, he's very, very old. I think I saw a lot of people commenting on that he's deteriorating, which is natural when you're that age. How old is he?
Also, when you retire,
He's 95, dude.
Yeah.
That's yeah. The retirement is a big thing too, but 95 is old regardless.
Yeah, no, he's old, man. It's super sad to think about that. Like, he's somebody that you really like. There's so much more wisdom that you can pull out of him.
But he's got the
like, how
shareholder
much
letters.
can you? Yeah.
He's got those forever. There's a lot of books. He's not done that many podcasts, but that'd be cool if he did. Like, he should do Rogan or something before he goes, or someone who could ask better questions.
That'd be so epic
for finance. But yeah, he should do some.
Totally, man. Gosh, man, there's so few people that honestly serve in that space that we were talking about earlier too, of just like someone that you can actually look up to in a sense of like having his character fully intact while still being that financially successful at the very minimum. Like, there's pretty much no one.
Yeah, because he's content with playing the long game, which so few people are, man. That's the frustrating thing, that even in our messed up society and world, if you are willing to play the long game, the chances of you being successful are pretty high.
Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't willing to everyone wants to jump there.
Yep.
But Budget said, have you flipped bullish on Bitcoin yet? I've always been bullish on Bitcoin. I just wouldn't say that I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. And then a lot of people were saying that he's been living in the same house since the 70s or something like that. I think that's another thing too, that he didn't, that kept him away from a lot of the downfalls that lead to other people, is that they chase a lot of these very low vibration things. And so I think that's also a testament to money isn't inherently low vibration, but it typically leads people to chase those things that you can purchase with that.
That's so real in terms of like, because the thing is as soon as you buy into that, like, it's like you could wake up all of the giants that are in that space. Like, as soon as you buy the Louis, you go into the Louis store and you spend a bunch of money, like, that guy who sold you those clothes is going to be connected to the guy that'll sell you the next thing. And he's going to be like, yo, like,
it becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah, it just becomes like a whole thing, man.
And an expectation, because if you are making your identity around that, then we seek to maintain our identity. And so if that's part of it, a lot of people are saying to get Warren on the show. We would absolutely love to facilitate that. I wonder how he'd be with the live stream tech. And then also getting a hold of him would be very, very difficult. But if we can ever make that happen, you can bet that we will do that. No pun intended.
Most definitely. Yeah, what to sell? Well, we're gonna have to take off.
Yeah, we need more engagement, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, we need some more support to pull that off. But I believe in us.
Most definitely. One other piece that I'm excited to cover, man, is our guy, man, Chamath Palihapitiya, another guy who it'd be great to have on the show.
Our guy is crazy.
I'd love to talk to him, man.
Yeah, I would too.
I'm a huge fan, so I'm a huge fan of the old Chamath, man. Are you still there?
If we grew a bit, I think he'd come on.
Oh, for sure, bro. He copied my title, bro. I'll call you out about that too. Come on, come chat about it, brother. Come on. No. Chamath Palihapitiya, the SPAC King, returns with a new blank check company on CNBC. And Andrew Val Sorkin calls dude out off the rip.
Did he? That's awesome.
And I think it was just absolutely fantastic. So let's roll the clip.
So Capital CEO of 8090, host of the All In podcast, and we haven't seen him in a while. We used to see you quite a bunch.
My own distribution.
I know.
I had to build my own.
Hold on. Off the rip calls him out, bro. He says,
when the music's on, you got to dance. And so these guys are dancing. They are in rhythm. They're in flow Let them do their thing, get behind them, don't sell a share.
You still have a sizable stock position in Tesla?
No.
You sold it?
Yeah.
When?
Over the last years, we've sort of, not last years, like really in the last years.
So
When the music's on, you got to dance.
So that's an audio.
So these
in the
guys are
background.
dancing. They are in rhythm. They're in
How do we
flow.
turn that off?
Let
I
them
don't
do their
know.
thing, get behind them, don't sell a share.
You still have a sizable stock
Is that
position
us
in
playing
Tesla?
that?
No.
I mean, I guess it's from.
You sold it?
I'm
Yeah.
imagining it's from Lucy. Ball.
Over the last.
Oh, okay, there we go. Cool. Yeah, so he's famous for that, for saying
Is it still playing for you or no?
it's just stopped. You're muted now.
So this is what I'm talking about with Twitter playing stuff, bro.
That was from Twitter.
Yeah, it was from Twitter. It's literally playing in the background because it's the quote tweet. But like, how am I supposed to stop that from happening? Anyway, here we go.
I know you've got your own distribution now, but you did come on a whole bunch during the SPAC craze.
I didn't have my own distribution.
And I want to ask you this, or maybe I want to read you this. We got a whole bunch of people tweeting at us. Pretty rich.
So this is how he starts the interview. Just pause. All right, cool.
Rich that Chamath has an issue with the game when he was the SPAC king and playing the game. So I'm curious, when you go back and think about,
What does that mean? What do they mean when they say that?
I think what they're saying is there was a period of time where you sold a lot of SPACs, and
No. Let's
promoted a lot of SPACs as
Yeah.
as the partner in a whole bunch of SPAC
totally.
projects.
Yeah.
And the truth was that a lot of those SPACs ultimately didn't work for
Well,
investors.
hold on. No. They did not work for speculators, but they worked for the CEOs and they worked for the employees. They worked for the customers of those companies. I mean, like, I think.
But for the investor class that was buying on the other end.
Hold on. Let's not call them an investor class. Okay. There were a ton of well-heeled hedge funds that were my partners. They made money. Who didn't make money? Speculators. Now, do I feel bad for them? Yes. Were my incentives misaligned with them? Also, yes.
Well, we used
Those
to
are-
debate this.
Yeah, but those are, and I can evolve and see,
Right.
and I can say that's a fair critique. But it's also pretty rich for folks to just sit and chirp on the sideline without saying, well, how much money did those companies raise? The answer is tens of billions of dollars. How many clients or patients or customers do they serve? The answer is millions to tens of millions. How have they grown revenues and traction since that happened? And the answer is, in some cases, doubling and tripling. So if you want to take a fair look at it from a 360
I don't know how
degree,
much more of this I can take.
with that work, and the part that didn't work,
But anyways, absolutely hilarious that's how Andrew Ross Sorkin started that. Like, flowers to him for that, because that was sick.
Totally.
That's
That show does a
journalism.
pretty good job of that.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Whoever runs that stuff gives their guys the opportunity to do that. Like, there was the other dude who attacked the whole Bitcoin narrative from that old guy saying like that stuff. So I like that a lot. And they also have the leverage of the platform to do that. But love right out the gate to pull that. And also, like, just truly so out of touch in the response. You can tell, obviously, it's his life, but he's thought through that like 1 billion times.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because he's had to. I mean, people have nonstop been on him since 2020. So he's had to face that. But yeah, I absolutely love Andrew Ross Sorkin. It's been a while, Chamath.
I do like him. He's cool.
Last time you were here, you were shilling SPACs, bro.
Super good.
Oh man.
Budget says, do you think the big companies like SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic going public is a good thing? They for sure are selling the top to us. That's every public offering.
Right. Facts.
So
yeah.
It really do be like that. That's also why the more you look into how the game is played, if you don't have a lot of resources, you become a lot more bullish on the crypto asset class, because it's like, where else do you see those kinds of potential opportunities? Like, you're more likely to lose, but yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, man. But yeah, that's the reactions for the day. Next, we just got a couple, I think, of pure memes.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this from Shally before we move in. When the bubble pops, would it have cascading effects on other inflated industries? I personally think it would.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I think there is a massive concern for what it means for crypto. I think that you said that your friend Sami says this about the compares crypto to the .com boom. Like I do think, well, if you have the AI bubble pop and it legit happens and like crypto goes down with it, could crypto actually take such a much more massive hit than it otherwise would, and then that actually lead to this being a much larger prolonged
delay.
period. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that happening, but I could also see it riding while everything else falls, because if even a small amount of resources flock to say something like Bitcoin as a safe haven asset, are the gains there so dramatic that it creates an alt season even as everything else is falling, just making the exodus of one asset class to another even more appealing. So yeah, I think I could see both things happening completely. I think it's
What did you see, Ben? Oh,
what? Are you good?
What did you see? It sounded like you stopped talking.
No, I said it's gonna be very interesting to see, and then I started reading the comments.
Oh, okay.
And they're giving you some shit for not having a light. I said his lights died.
Yeah, guys, I didn't charge my light today.
I was looking out for you, bro. Don't worry.
Let's see. Pure memes. A prison cell in Norway up top, and then down below a room of a crypto millionaire.
I saw a funny bit also where basically, I think it was in the UK, because the housing problems are so massive everywhere, where someone was pitching the solution, basically the exact dimensions and layout of like a prison cell. And yeah, it is pretty crazy how nuts things have gotten, how normalized they've become. Even in Toronto, what people pay for these tiny apartments, it's absurd, but it's just because that's what the market rate is, and so you got to live somewhere. And then the similar thing with the Canadian market is that because we're all in like these big cities, even the surrounding towns, because everyone from the States is always like, "Oh, go move somewhere else." It's like it's the same problem there.
Yeah, dude, that's rough. Yeah, you guys know my current solution.
What's that? Nomad?
Yeah, man, get out of there.
Yeah, I would. I have cats though too, so I can't leave them or be nomadic with them.
Right. Yeah, I find it so wild that people travel with their pets. Like, I don't know how that works. I'm like, because don't they put them like on the bottom of the thing? Like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I think a dog could make more sense, but cats don't really travel that well.
Yeah, I don't even no idea. This is what it looks like to have a trading edge these days. Having your desk over by, imagine
the Strait of Hormuz.
But those are the only two memes that we had for the day.
Cool. We can open up to the chat for the last few minutes.
What up, chat? And then community. Let's talk about the last episode.
Do you want to go to the community section?
Community. So last episode, we had the Jaunt on, and it was a really good, fun conversation. I'm expecting that over time this will get some views and lead to some massive controversy in the comments. But let's see. Self-Reliance OS. Oh, because he asked the questions. He said, I deeply appreciate you both answering those questions from your perspectives. These are kinds of questions I've spent much of my life seeking answers to. We'll hopefully be launching my own page soon. Learned a few things about that here today, which was awesome. Thank you for your insights and engagement with me specifically and the community at large. Always max value here. Glad to be here.
We appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Self-Reliance OS. Dings for Dimes. Such a great discussion. Thanks for sharing. What up, Dings? Night on the Sun. This conversation made me very glad that I am a gay woman in a relationship with my life partner. Okay, there you go. I understand these conversations are important, especially for young people trying to navigate the dating field, but geez, the mind games are so silly to me. skipping ahead to the news and memes.
Totally fair.
Hope all is well, fellas.
Yeah, always feel free to do that. If you really don't like the topic, you can always just push to the second half. And eventually, as we get our systems more operated, that'll be an option on a different channel where you can just watch those too.
Yep. Duck Godson said, please find a way to equalize the audio. I noticed that guest speakers are often quiet and Ben can be loud at times.
But I used to be called quiet. Now it's loud. We're working with our producer to try to solve this stuff. And if you ever do want to hear it more leveled out, Spotify is the place to go because we do treat the entire stream with equalizing AI, so it does sound more even.
Totally. I'm looking at the some of the comments here. All right, cool. The next, go ahead.
We have to read that one.
Okay,
I would zoom in a little bit. People can.
Yep. BLKSHK. This is a much less provocative title than the one before. I think lots of people will miss out on the good information here because of the switch up.
There's a bunch of titles that will be tested.
Yeah, so I'm curious which one you saw.
saw.
Yeah. And then Holdlim said, I thought this was a stock market and crypto channel. The QAC said, skip to 1 hour and 8 minutes if you want to skip the interview part. Stay curious, LOL. That's an awesome comment, Doug Godson.
Yeah, super good. I had to throw that a heart.
Yeah, that's I mean, really, like, all the stuff is just, we're talking systems and how things get the way that they are. And a lot of the times it does have to do with economics and finance and systems that are incentivized by economics and finance, such as social media platforms or dating platforms, and like how that all ties back in. So that's really the point of the show, is like, how does this stuff tie back into culture and how does it impact our real day-to-day lives? Because there's tons of shows do and talk about stocks and crypto and money go up and down, but we very rarely do that here.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the problem with it is because to do what we're doing, you have to accept the volatility of viewership, right? But personally, for what we're trying to build and cultivating a community is, I think a lot of the problems that we experience is because everything is so siloed. But when you as an audience or like the algorithms force people into silos, then that happens naturally, right? So it is what it is. If you want to see the interview, bounce to the second half. That's all good. Do your thing.
Totes. Yeah, yeah. I find this stuff fascinating, right? Like, I'd love to have tons more of those conversations. And he's a super unique person to do it with, just because he's built such a following around his unique ideas that he's brought to.
Yeah, and the data that he gets to see from the comments and stuff.
Yeah, like super interesting. But yeah, so that's pretty much the show. We've got some stuff that we'd love for you guys to do. I guess actually it's time for me to pull my challenges.
Pull them.
So if you didn't know, I'm in the middle of No Dice 45. It's an app that we built to help people to hold themselves accountable and to have people also be able to hold you accountable as we continue to work towards your goals. And I'm on day 21 of 45 of the No Dice 45 challenge. So I'm about to poll today. Let's see what I get for my challenges for the day. Uh-oh. I think I have to go outside today. I've got to give 5 strangers a compliment, and I've got to do that in Portuguese, ladies and gentlemen. Other than that, I've got a 10-minute breathwork session. I've got to document my journey, and I've got to go 45 minutes exercising. So that's what I've got for the day. Yeah, super excited.
100%. Go give No Dice a download and a free trial. Where is the overlay? Oh crap, I deleted it. I got to re-upload it. But yeah, it's in the app stores, so definitely go give it a download. We're on Apple and Android, so whatever you've got, you can download it, and at the very least, access Keith's free courses. But I strongly encourage you to take on the No Dice 45 challenge if you do feel like you need a bit of a reset. And if not, you can still use No Dice to create a better, more healthy relationship to your phone and end the doom scrolling loop that so many people are stuck in. And I do think it's very helpful because we have a free trial, so you can go give it a go and use the blocking free features for free for a few days. And it's a great way to see the relationship that you actually have. Because a lot of people talk about the relationship they think they have with their technology, but really it's something very, very different.
Absolutely. And really what it all comes down to is like looking at your life and thinking about what are the things that are not going the way that you want them to go.
Mhm.
It could be anything. It could be you're not reading as much. It could be that you're not spending as much time with your kids as you'd like to, or not being present when you're spending that time with your kids. It could be that your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever it is are people that you also want to be spending more time with or being more intentional with. And your phone is just something that's simply getting in the way of that. It could be that you want to work out more, right? But you're just not doing the things that this device enables you to do, and you want to get more control over that so that you can live a more healthy, happy, fulfilling life. That's what this app is all about. And so if you have any of those things that are going on in your life, you can use this app to help you to be more intentional about the things that you're doing. You can set up ways to basically make sure that you're using less of the apps on your phone, and then therefore reallocating that time towards other things, right? Time is super precious. You only have, what is it, 84,000 seconds in a day. So each second that you're spending on these apps is taking away from your real life. There's only so much time that you're actually spending awake every day,
Mhm.
right? So, yeah, just some things to keep in mind. Like this is not just like a social challenge. Like this is you. Like how can you use tools to make your life better? And that's what we built No Dice to do.
Yeah, and we're continuing to add on to it, tweak things. So we recently added the daily dues option, which allows you to create a list of things that you want to do every single day, and then how much time you're willing to spend on the less constructive apps, and then basically use that as a reward. So let's say there's 4 things you want to do every single day, and you're willing to spend an hour. When you do one of the tasks, you earn 1/4 of your doom scrolling time for the day. So this is really meant to be a toolbox for you to create the relationship that you want with the technology, to make the technology work for you and get the life that you want. Plus, within our blocking sessions, you can make custom sessions to customize your life. So anybody can take advantage of that to restrict their access to things at certain times of the week on an ongoing basis. You can always change those things. So yeah, go give it a download, play around with it. Let us know your feedback, any suggestions, and we'll continue to evolve the product.
There's a 3-day free trial. So download the app, check it out, see if it's something that is going to be helpful for you, and honestly, make it something helpful for you. But yeah, it's just 3-day free trial. So check out the link in the description, click that link, download the app, or you can scan right here on the screen.
That's it. Well,
Cool.
that's everything from me, Keith. Y'all good?
That's it for me.
Cool. Awesome. Well, appreciate all y'all in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us today. You are all legends, and we appreciate you giving us some of your time and hanging out with us and contributing to the chat. If you happen to be watching this on the replay, definitely while you're watching this, get into the habit of watching the chat, because there's some great stuff that goes in there. And then obviously, we definitely would encourage you to come and show up live for a future episode. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern, we will be live here chopping it up. We got some great guests coming your way very soon too. So definitely keep an eye. That's all from me.
Awesome. Appreciate y'all to the maximum level, legitimately.
That's
Make
it.
today the best day of your life, folks.
That's it. Be the light that you want to see, and we will see all of y'all on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Cheers. Bye-bye.